at 7 o'clock. And the roll call, I believe Kevin Bennett would agree with me that under the rules that we're operating under, we all have to, for the roll call, we have to state our name and then our physical location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right then, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Monahan,
Audrey Monahan, and I'm at the township office.
All right.
Trustee Stewart,
John Stewart, 1142 South Main Law Office, where I've been for 36 years.
Clerk Vorva, Jerry Vorva. I'm at the clerk's office at the Township Hall. Trustee Dorshevitz,
Bob Dorshevitz in my home office in Plymouth Township, where I've been for 45 minutes.
Trustee Kermy,
Chuck Kermy in my home office in Plymouth.
Treasurer Clinton,
Mark Clinton in my office in Township Hall.
Supervisor Heisey.
I'm Kurt Heisey, and I'm here at my office at Township Hall.
We have a quorum, all present.
Very good. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Bob Dorshevitz, and we will be putting a flag up on the screen shortly. There we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty and justice for all.
Ready?
Okay.
Run.
Thank you very much. Item C is rules and procedures for tonight's remote meeting. Tonight, Plymouth Township will be utilizing the video and audio conferencing platform Zoom for electronic meetings, which will be accessible to members of the public and this Board of Trustees. The meeting host, that is me, will call for public comment during those portions of the meeting as we normally do, and ask if there's any public comments at the beginning of the agenda and at the end, and also on individual agenda items if they are germane to that particular topic. Members of the public participating in the electronic meeting who wish to speak during public comment should use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if you dialed into the meeting, you hit *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand, but only again when comments are requested. Pressing *9 on your telephone keypad will activate the raise hand feature, signaling to the meeting host that a participant wishes to speak. As always, public comment is still limited to 3 minutes. I'll be keeping time here on my phone. And if you are on a telephone and do not wish to be heard, then we would ask that you mute your keypad using *6, I believe, or otherwise muting your phone. And for everybody's benefit, and one of us, it'll probably happen to one of us here tonight, we're surrounded by gadgets, computers, laptops, etc. So if there's anything that you think might go off tonight, a ring or a beep or something like that, just mute whatever you've got around you, just in case something beeps that you didn't anticipate. And then for tonight's meeting, you will see that I'm sometimes gesturing off into the space here. That's because Bob Jenks, who is the IT director for Plymouth Township, is also with us tonight. Bob will be feeding the questions to me from the public, much like an engineer would in a talk show or something like that. And Bob will be, you'll see that I will be either gesturing to him from time to time, or we may even be talking. So there is Bob Jenks, IT director, is in the office with me. Okay, any questions on item C, rules and procedures? Then we will move on to item D, approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I'd like to move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, January 12th, 2021.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
and I know Kevin Bennett's going to zing me on this because I know under the consent agenda, we do have some items that require a voice vote. So we will do, when the time comes on the consent agenda, we will do a voice vote on item E. So at this point, we are at item E, approval of the consent agenda. Any comments or questions at this time on item E?
So that includes the hazardous waste, right?
Yeah.
You are at $80 a household. That's going to be prohibitive. So I'm glad you're doing this. We may have to cooperate with Wayne County, who seems to be having a lot. They have half a dozen of these a year. But anyway, it looks like you're on it. I'm glad we could wait until next October also, because we're not as urgent as normal, right?
We would like to get back to a normal May format, and we think that our current provider can do that. But their prices are much higher than we had anticipated. And in fact, you had mentioned $80. I think that in year 2 or 3 of their proposed agreement, we were getting close to $100 per vehicle. That's just unacceptable. I mean, if you come in with a can of spray paint, that's a $100 deposit basically that the taxpayers have to pay for. So we want to see who else is out there. We may look at partnering with Wayne County. That household hazardous waste program is what I started when I was environment director. And they do have about 4 around the various areas around the county. Another option that we may want to consider is doing this every other year. That might be another option. But let's see again who's out there in the marketplace and what they're willing to offer, and maybe we can negotiate a good deal as well. Any other questions on item E?
Do you know why the cost has gone up so substantially?
I think part of the thing is there are very few vendors left in Southeast Michigan. I think it's just a case of supply and demand, and there's only about, to the best of our knowledge, there's only about maybe three providers.
And everybody wants to do their hazardous waste days on the same Saturdays in May too, I bet.
Well, I hope not, but I know that I know some communities have been cutting back or going with the county's plan.
Yeah.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know, I did review the bills under item E4, and everything looks to be in order, and I approved it.
Okay. Anything else under item E?
Also, Trustee Stewart checked the bills for the last bill run in December.
That's correct. They appear to be okay as to form and substance. It was a new experience for me, and never once was I invited to look at these as a trustee between 1988 and 1992.
Well, we're far more transparent now. I love your office, John. I got to tell you, it looks like something out of Shakespeare. It's really nice.
You have been here several times, and I want to invite each and every one of you to stop in here, as Trustee Borba has done, Clerk Borba, and Supervisor Heisey. You are welcome to stop in here. Also, that 6 residents of Plymouth Township, senior citizens, more older than myself, have stopped into my office since yesterday morning.
You need a giant elk head on that back wall, though. That would be perfect.
All righty. Any other questions on item E? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, I'm going to need you to take the roll on that.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion pass.
Very good. Thank you. Item F is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. This will not be your only opportunity during the meeting. There will be another opportunity later on in the meeting, and we do encourage questions on individual items as long as they are germane to that particular topic. So at this time, I'm looking to IT Director Bob Jenks to see if there is anybody in the public who would like to speak at this time. Okay. Anybody out there who we're missing, just yell. Okay. All set? Okay. So we move on to item G, new business, Township Master Plan Presentation Update. Planning consultant Laura Ha, who is, where did she go? Oh, there she is. So she will be taking over the screen here. I think, Laura, you're going to put your presentation on the screen as well, correct?
Correct. Good evening,
Yes, awesome.
trustees. You should all see a public engagement summary on the screen now. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Feel free to stop me at any point during the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions during or at the end. So at least since 1955, when this aerial on the left was taken, the township has been engaging in the master plan process. And the master plan is really the guiding document for the township. It prescribes where new growth will develop, what type of new growth will be permitted, and what that new growth looks like aesthetically and for character and architecture. So as we continue along the best practice of planning for the next 70 years of the community, we do need to update the master plan, which was last adopted in 2015. And not only is this a best practice, as I mentioned, but it also is required by the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. And as part of that process, the act does require that the public is engaged during the process. So for this survey, or for this master plan update, the township conducted a community-wide survey via SurveyMonkey, and that was available for the months of November and December of 2020. It was advertised on the township's website, social media, sent to listservs such as the HOA listserv. It was also advertised, promoted by the Plymouth District Library, and in total, 913 results or survey respondents were received, which is a sizable number given the township's population of less than 28,000. The survey results are broken out into various themes, the first being housing and neighborhoods. So when thinking about the community, the top 3 reasons for living in Plymouth Township, respondents identified the proximity to downtown Plymouth, natural features and open space, and then public safety. Other liked or attractive features of the neighborhood that participants identified were walkability, architectural quality, and the location of nearby parks as important quality of life aspects.
Laura,
Yes.
was there any question that asked people about proximity to their working place? Or was that not a choice?
That was a choice, proximity to employment. And I don't believe that was highly rated. I'm just looking here. That received 16% of the vote. So 16% felt that proximity to employment was one of the main reasons for living in the township.
Yeah, that's surprising. Okay, next item where there's this quote, small affordable houses are being knocked down to make way for huge, very expensive homes. There isn't, are people confusing where they live, whether they're in the city of Plymouth or Plymouth Township? Because there's not a lot of houses being knocked down yet in Plymouth Township to build expensive houses. There's some over there in Green Meadows, but those are $400,000 houses, not million.
There were a number of demographic questions that were asked at the end of the survey, and one of those was, are you a township resident or do you live outside the community? And it was less than 4% responded from outside the community. So the majority are in the township, and I hope the boundary they would realize they're in the township. But I think probably this comment stems from similar comments that we've heard in the planning department in the Green Meadows subdivision. where there's been a lot of demolitions and then land divisions, and then the construction of 2 new homes on the same lot.
We do get those complaints a lot in Green Meadows.
But that they don't want the new houses?
No, they like the character the way that was since they've lived there, and they don't want to see the Bigfoot homes taking over the neighborhood. Okay, Laura, continue.
Okay, thanks. Respondents also identified new housing typologies that they would support. And so the top responses were bungalow courts, which is pictured here, the top picture, townhouses, duplexes when side by side, or what we call accessory dwelling units. So those are pictured here as an example on the bottom, a converted garage into a residential living space. They're also sometimes called carriage houses, where a member of the family could live, or it could be rented out. And these type of houses or dwelling units are often referred to as missing middle housing. So I'm sure that term may be familiar to some of you. The survey also looked at parks, culture, and community facilities. Overwhelming majority visit at least once a month to the township's parks, although 27% do not feel that they have safe access when walking or biking, indicating that they would need to drive. When asked further on why they felt unsafe or what could be improved for their access to parks and other community facilities, the lack of bicycle infrastructure, lack of sidewalks, not enough lighting, better signage, and other amenities such as benches were indicated. And when looking at the township as a whole, this map here shows in red all of the gaps that currently exist in the sidewalk network. And these are only on the main corridors. So you'll see that it doesn't represent any sidewalk gaps that may exist in the neighborhoods themselves, just the main corridors, thoroughfares of the township. And when you tally up all these red lines that are shown, it's over 36 miles in total of sidewalk gap that exists. So you kind of understand a little bit where these comments are coming from. 91% of survey respondents did support more land to be designated.
Laura, quick question, sorry.
Yeah.
If you could go back, in a lot of these cases, the red line indicates that there's not a sidewalk on one side of the street, but there might be one on the other side of the street. Because I can see some examples on here where there are some connections, just not on both sides of the street.
Right. Yes, and in some cases, it goes back and forth a bit. You can see
So
that.
I think the question with the sidewalk gap, Phil, is that can you get anywhere from point A in the township to point B by staying on sidewalks? And there's a lot of cases where you can't. And that would be where our first priorities ought to be. Even if you have to cross the street at an intersection, at least you can get from point A to point B via sidewalk.
Right.
Bear in mind. Yeah, thank you.
That's a good point. So as I was mentioning, a strong support for more land designated as parks and recreation space. 77% supported dog walking on a leash in Township Park. We posed a question about community gardens. This was talked a little bit about last year. 87% supported, with 35% either interested in growing their own produce or produce for the larger community. And then there was also a question about the performance of the golf course. 59% stated they don't use the facility, but for those that do, the other 31% felt it was moving in the right direction and 10% did not. There are also over 270 ideas offered for arts and cultural opportunities in the township. We consolidated those into these following themes that you can see in the table. Many of the comments spoke of partnerships with existing organizations and the surrounding communities. So not just the city of Plymouth, but Northville Township, Canton Township, Livonia, in an effort to maintain efficiency with those programmings and offerings and to minimize, if any, costs associated. The top environmental assets that participants identified were the existing recreation facilities, natural features such as woodlands and wetlands, and then participants also identified the top environmental challenges. So road congestion, excluding any of the freeways, removal of woodlands, walking and biking, not only within the township, but to adjacent destinations such as downtown Plymouth, and then the quality of our rivers and lakes. For transportation and infrastructure, the top goals really were maintaining the road infrastructure and improving non-motorized facilities, so the sidewalks, bike paths. There were a number of comments about safer pedestrian connections at major intersections and to reduce traffic congestion. And then there were also some questions related to the future of transportation and within the next 5 years. Are people interested in more mobility to parks, to downtown Plymouth, to other neighborhoods? And these were strongly supported, especially for downtown Plymouth and the parks and other neighborhoods. I think that's something that's easy to prioritize on the sidewalk gap map that I just showed a few slides ago, making sure that those destinations are well connected to one another. And then of course, there were several potential change areas that were identified in the survey. In particular, the Schoolcraft Road corridor. The top uses that were found to be ideal for this area were technology and research, professional office, medical office, and then light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, big box commercial, and multifamily received the least amount of support, all less than 25%. And the area west of Beck, south of M14, has been a constant question that the Planning Commission has looked at. We received many, many inquiries in the Planning Department about other uses than single family residential in these areas, especially at some of the major road intersections. And the responses from the survey show that single family was still the primary desired use. Neighborhood commercial, similar to Picnic Basket, was the next most popular. Agritourism and missing middle housing, so maybe some of those attached condos, the bungalow course that we showed earlier, were given a bit of support. Other uses that we offered, such as medical office, professional office, general commercial, received either 5% or less of support.
So what is agritourism again? Is that like a cider mill would be an example of that?
Mm-hmm. Or a greenhouse.
A greenhouse that had retail.
Yes, a commercial component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Laura?
Mm-hmm.
The item for missing middle housing, would that include the type of housing for empty nesters that would be either attached condos or semi-attached, or some of these smaller site condos that we're seeing nowadays?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that would be exactly that.
Laura, what percent of this area is available for building? Isn't it substantially built out? Country Club Village is in here.
You've got the parcel south of Northridge that's still available. You have smaller pocket areas like Verona Park that we've been working on now for years. You also have, Laura, you know about that very large parcel in the middle that she is outlining right now, which I believe to be about, Laura, how many acres was that? Like
It's at least 15.
15? Yeah, that is all privately owned. And then you've got some smaller parcels here and there, but you're correct. It's mostly built up at this point. And what we're looking at, what we're seeing on a monthly basis is developers coming in with plans for relatively small lot areas of anywhere from 12 to maybe 20 homes.
What is
That,
this?
that 15 acres is landlocked.
Yep.
I wasn't even aware of that. So that is, so it's behind Deer Creek and behind Fox Hills. It's just a landlocked parcel, huh?
Yeah.
Really? I never knew about it.
It's one of the
Right in-
largest parcels in the township that is still undeveloped, and it is privately owned. It's owned by one individual, and we'll see what the future holds for that site.
Well, they have frontage on some road, correct?
No, they really don't. I don't know if Laura can zoom in on that anymore, but you have to get in there through that.
You put it on Google Maps, Laura?
But
Flip over.
does someone live there in a home now?
I'm not sure if I can say that publicly. It is owned by an individual. The parcel is, yeah. I don't know what they're living.
Interesting. I never knew about this.
And it is just loaded with coyote.
Oh, I'm sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I bet you there's 200 of them in there.
Wow. Who knew?
All over the wild. See, agro-tourism.
Oh,
There you go.
there you go. We can do a coyote.
Agro-tourism.
Park.
So
Oh.
that's
Oh,
the
there it is.
parcel.
The creek runs right through there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
And Laura, you know where the house is. There's a house, and then there's to the southwest, there's a large barn and outdoor work area.
Wow.
Okay, so there is access through that
Yeah.
road right now.
Yeah, Amherst, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But
Huh.
again, nobody's talking about developing that site yet, but that is one of the few undeveloped parcels in the township in that part of town.
And then you also have a couple parcels where people would like to see rezoning. If you go to North Territorial and Ridge, for example, Laura, they've been trying to get that one on the corner that used to have that old dilapidated house. They've been
Mhm.
trying to get that one rezoned for years.
Rezoned to what?
So they could do, remember that one group wanted to put in like a small, wanted to put
The daycare, right?
a child care center
Yeah.
at one point, a daycare.
Mhm.
And that got shot down. And then there was also some talk about a medical office building, like a small one in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's
there-
also,
So there's a few parcels. And then the other thing that we're going to have is that some of these older houses that were on the main trunk lines, that were in families for 50 or 70 or 80 years, as that property becomes more valuable, people are going to look to redevelop that. Some of these old, like what were farmhouses at one time. That's what happened where Plymouth Charter or Plymouth Scholars is right over to your left. That was one, that plus 8 houses behind it originally was one parcel with one house on it. And they came to the board, I think in 2004 or 5. And they got it a split and rezoned so that the school could go there. But that was an example of where, if you go to the west, and not that I know anything, I'm just going to use this as an example. 2 houses to the left, sooner or later, somebody's going to come along and offer them enough money. They're going to want to sell it and do something else with it. And I think those are discussions we're going to end up having.
We're seeing that also on the other, sort of in the middle of town where Congressman Purcell's house is or was. That parcel is another one that's kind of like a long ribbon parcel that
Yeah.
people are looking to put about 12 houses there. So
Yeah, that's another one.
that's another example. That's active right now. They're coming before the Planning Commission next week, I believe.
Correct.
So has there been any interest in developing the condo type housing you were talking about, Laura? I know that you said your survey shows that, but Kurt, is there anyone coming before us that want that kind of housing?
Well, we have had interest in assisted and independent living senior facilities, but not quite the bungalow court attached homes. More of a area or a center where there's some sort of medical care provided. But I think part of the challenge too is that the zoning ordinance today doesn't really speak to those uses. It just talks mainly about single family detached housing. So if maybe there was a developer that was looking, they may not even see that listed in our code, and they might not even pursue further.
Laura, at one time, I recall Plymouth Township had 1/4 of the population was living alone. Is that true? And do we have new information from the census from last year?
I'll look into that one. I'm not sure offhand.
Okay, Laura, do you want to keep going?
Yes. All right, so that brings us to next steps. To wrap up the master plan, we need to update the future land use plan, the narrative that's associated with that. We also need to update the future land use map. We need to create a zoning plan. This is something new that the Enabling Act requires. This table that I have provided is an example from another community of what a zoning plan looks like, where it correlates the zoning districts with the future land use districts and how that will change over time. Following that, we'll put the plan out for public comment period, and then the adoption process can begin with the Planning Commission having a public hearing, and then finally this body, the Board of Trustees, will consider by resolution to adopt the plan. And if there's any...
How much of the budget have you expended for this project? What percent?
I want to say we're probably about 75, 80 now.
That's a $5,000 budget?
That was something like that.
Yeah, just about. The majority of the work has been, completed at this point. Now that the public engagement is done, so we'll see if there's any other public comments that come in during the public comment portion. But most of the act requirements have been satisfied at this point.
Okay. Laura, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions from anyone?
So I kind of wonder about how you, when you do these surveys, what, how do you control for, sure, I'll take one of everything. I'll take a sundae. You want chocolate on that? Yep. You want some whipped cream? Sure. Do you want this? Yeah. So my point being is that a lot of times with these surveys, if you ask people open-ended questions or, what do you want, and there's no trade-offs or choices that have to be made, that you don't always get, the best information. And instead, if you said you got $10 to spend and this item costs $3 and this item costs $2, you get a little bit better qualitative feel for it. So what's your feel for, in this particular run we took at it, how much did you just get all of the above when people were asked those kinds of questions?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to note that I think this is the most public engagement that the township has received in a long time. There's not even any mention of public engagement in the 2015 plan. So it is important to, hear the aspirations, if you will, of the community. And then I think that translates into goals. And the next item on your agenda this evening is your goal setting for this year, and really up to the board to determine what type of funding opportunities are available, and what sort of opportunities present themselves for putting into motion some of those priorities, knowing that it's not a perfect world and they can't all be accomplished, but working towards that shared goal where you see that there is overlap in the direction for the future.
Then why did 4% of why did people outside of the community respond to our survey? Why would somebody do that?
It's COVID. They had a lot of time on their hands.
They got time, man. It's COVID.
Foreign interference.
They are starved for entertainment. That's rhetorical. That's rhetorical. I don't expect an answer.
Okay, Laura, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Now I am looking to Bob Jenks. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak at this time? So again, is there anybody in the public who wants to speak on this particular item? All right. No hands, so we're going to move on to item G2. This is the annual goals review and discussion. So I'm going to kick things off tonight. For our two new trustees, this is something that we started doing, I believe, in 2017 or maybe in 2018. Because I think in 17, yeah, no, we started in 17, yeah. So what we do is it's pretty rudimentary. We put together this list. The list is pretty much done by me. It's written by me. And I would tell you that most of the ideas and most of the suggestions in here are things that either I've come up with or I have actually taken notes and written things. Am I on?
Yes.
No,
You
good.
are.
I'm just not lit up on the board here. So ideas and suggestions that I've picked up during the previous calendar year at board meetings, or I've heard from some of you, or maybe from department heads and others. So I don't claim ownership or that these are all demands or anything like that. They're certainly not. These are just things that we've encountered during the previous year and stuff that I hope that we've talked about for the upcoming year. And then what we do is we go through these things tonight. We're not making any final decisions. We're not voting on anything. We're just trying to generate some conversation at the beginning of the year. And then Mark Clinton, what he will do is he will then send out a grid, if you will. And then what we will do is prioritize as many of these goals as possible. I'd like to be able to maybe remove some of these goals tonight so that we don't have a situation like we do with the master plan where we just say, yeah, I like everything. And because we do, I mean, at the end of the day, we should like and want everything, right? But we can't always have everything. So we want to be able to really sit down and prioritize these things individually. And what Mark does is I believe we rank them 1 through 5. And then that is done privately by you. And then you send that ranking list to Mark. Mark will put it on an Excel spreadsheet, and then at our next meeting, we'll go over them again. Hopefully we'll adopt those goals at our next meeting. Again, it's pretty simple. We're not hiring a facilitator or anything like that to walk us through this like some communities do. So it's really just the 7 of us kind of sitting around and talking about it. It's it's a shame that we have to do it by Zoom. I think it's better when we're all in the same room and we can kind of have more of a freewheeling discussion. So we're going to try to do this with Zoom, and hopefully we can all share in the conversation. So I'm just going to start right at the beginning. Number 1 is public safety. This is a list for the newcomers. This is a list that used to be about a page long when we started, but we've accomplished really almost everything that we wanted to do in the area of public safety the last 4 years. So this has now become one of the smaller segments. One of the things that we've been talking about is possibly providing fire service to the city of Plymouth. They currently have an arrangement with Northville City whereby they go to each other's fire runs. I'm not going to say how well that arrangement has worked out, but I do believe that arrangement is going to be, their contract with Northville City will be coming to an end either this year or next. So I'd like to have a more formal discussion with the city about the possibility of us providing fire service for a fee. So we would be paid by the run, and it would be fire service only, not ambulance. Again, that's just a discussion item that we should have with the city, and leave it up to them if they want to do that. Let me just get through. Yeah, go ahead.
So have you opened the door on this yet? Or, I mean, if they're watching here tonight, is this going to come as a surprise or?
It should not come as a surprise to the mayor. Some of the commissioners, it's up to him if he wants to talk to them about it. But I know Jerry Vorva and I have had just kind of back of the napkin discussions with the mayor about this possibility.
Okay.
That we're out there, we're available. If they want to make a deal with us for a fee, we'd be interested in doing that.
Yeah, I completely support this. This is a great way to give more efficient service to both the city and the township. We'll have some
Yeah, I
synergy.
agree.
Okay.
Well, there was so much history to that, relationship, good and bad. But they went in another direction. When was that when they did that? 2012?
2012.
Was it 12 when they did that?
Yes.
So I'd be curious to have that conversation as well. I think it's worth having the conversation.
But this would be a deal where it would be very one-sided, whereas the last fire service was a joint fire service. We would propose
Yeah, it was the thing about it, and I was in the middle of that during that whole breakdown. Nobody really, there was such different opinion as to whether they were a partner or whether they were simply a purchaser of services. And two different people had two different opinions on that. And I think it's got to be really clear going in that this is what the relationship is. You're not, are they a partner or are they simply buying services from us?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on, I would like to see some kind of anti-bias training regionally through the MMRMA or the Conference of Western Wayne. I'd really like to see it more through the MMRMA, which is our insurance carrier. They represent most of the communities in Michigan and the police departments, and they are the ones who absorb the liability cost along with us when things go wrong. And so I think I would like to see the MMRMA step up and offer a more comprehensive anti-bias training for all of us in Western Wayne County.
When you say all of us, who do you mean?
The police departments, Northville, Plymouth, Canton, Livonia, basically the Conference of Western Wayne Communities, which would be everybody from, from Livonia westward.
Kurt, hopefully there's discussion on it, but I'd like to add another part to it. And I'm sure Chief Titterington will be able to weigh in on it. I want not just a liability mitigation thing. We also need to impart some type of cultural updating or whatever. So an insurance company is probably not the only one that should be represented. We need to have some other people that are involved in psychological training or something, but just having it from a liability mitigation standpoint, I don't think will be adequate. In fact, Chief Titterington, I think you had a discussion with Mr. Belvich's group, they might, from their attitude, how they think needs to be imparted into any kind of training. I think you said they had some good ideas, or at least you had a good discussion.
Yes, we're looking at a number of training opportunities, but I do agree with the supervisor that MMRMA should be part of that training.
Yeah, I agree too, but I think we need to have a little extra twist. All right, great.
It's multifaceted indeed.
Yeah.
The next item is, I'd like to see us create an emergency relief fund through the Plymouth Community Foundation. The Plymouth Community Foundation is actually managed, their fiduciary is the Canton Community Foundation. So, and that's the way foundations operate. So the Canton Community Foundation has approached us. There is a major donor in the community who would like to create this fund with his own money. And what this fund would be used for would be at the discretion of the police chief, to be used in emergency situations where we have a family that's been burned out of a house, a domestic violence victim that needs to be relocated immediately. And this would be a way for the chief to basically to write a check or provide a debit card or food for these individuals in need. And then we have to work out the actual reimbursement scheme, but either we would be reimbursed by the Canton Community Foundation, or there would be a withdrawal directly from them. We can work that out in whatever type of agreement we have.
So I'm familiar with the the initiative behind this and the folks behind it, and 100% support it.
Are you proposing that the check be written from Plymouth Township?
We have to work out those details. I think there's some miscommunication between me and Chief Tidrington and the Canton Community Foundation on who writes the check and who gets reimbursed when and where. We just have to iron that out. This arrangement currently exists in Canton and is managed by the Canton Community Foundation at the behest of their police chief. We just need to have somebody in the field who can make these decisions immediately, and whether that's going to be a withdrawal from a Canton Community Foundation account or whether we're going to invoice them at some point remains to be seen.
Let me, to make sure I understand this correctly, just give a hypothetical. One example of how the funds might be used. Let's say, for example, that a woman has to flee the home because of the night because of a domestic violence situation. The township cannot pay for her to go to a hotel, but these funds might be used, for example, to pay for a night or two in a hotel room.
Right, exactly. Yep. Recently, we had a fire in the manufactured home community. Family was completely burned out. Our fire union got involved and helped pay for food and clothing for them and an overnight stay. That did not come out of the township's coffers, but this would be that type of scenario that we would like to see.
There will be some type of, first of all, the Salvation Army has done this for many years already. And we also have the women's shelter group, I forgot its name, First Step.
First Step, this is part of First Step, isn't it, Kurt?
First Step is actually asking for this as well. They do this in Canton and other communities, and we're one of the, we don't have such an arrangement with them. So they would like to see this in place as well.
All right, so there's some good ideas here, but I strongly discourage writing checks from Plymouth Township. In fact, I question whether that's a lawful expense for a township. So we just need to be careful. And means testing, remember, if somebody has insurance, we're not going to pay on top of insurance. You get what I mean? So insurance pays usually for a hotel if you have insurance. So I don't want to see this fund paying on top of that. So it's something to think of. The Salvation Army is an expert at this already. Maybe the Canton Foundation is also.
Yep.
But I want to be careful about it, because whenever there's a pot of money, sometimes it can get overused and it doesn't go to the right people, the people who really need it.
Correct.
Kurt, is Kevin going to be looking at that arrangement? Because I'm sure there's some legal loopholes that, we have to jump through, some holes to jump through.
Yeah, Kevin already has a copy of the draft and he's looking it over. I may get it to you in some form, either at our January 26th meeting or the February 9th meeting. So, okay.
Okay, hold on a minute, hold on a minute.
Oh, John.
The initial donor is Mr. Don Sonnen. He came to you, Mr. Supervisor, and or myself, and indicated that he had an initial donation to make. I was contacted 2 weeks ago by another donor. And we're talking in the neighborhood of $25,000 to get this off the ground. I rely on you and the township attorney to negotiate some of these details. Don Sonnen will be present at the next meeting, it's my understanding. January 26th, if we do an in-person meeting. And he would be able to clarify. And I'd also like to ask him to be open to questions about park and to further edify what's going on. So I think we'll leave it to that.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to move on now to item 2, infrastructure.
Hold on, I have 2 items I'd like to add to talk about. The HVA contract is expiring this year. We got to have that as a goal to do something there. It's just got to be on our radar.
Yeah, I think it expires in September.
All right.
October, September.
All right, and the other item I'd like you to consider, and this focuses on you, Chief Titterington, is to publish something on our website that had meaningful police statistics. And I don't know what they are, but we've had requests, and I know you talked with Belvich. If there's any idea there, but it's something I know we were working on. Well, you were working on. So meaningful police statistics. Don't know what that means, but it's something we should be considering.
We're looking into it. Yes, we're going to do it this year.
Okay. I'm going to move on to infrastructure. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory, township-wide sidewalk installation program and improved communication outreach. We've been talking about that for years. We have a sidewalk program. We had to put it on hold last year because of COVID, but we have every intention of resuming that program this year, and we hope that it will be accepted by the public.
Jeremy, when will the notices go out for the repair program that was jettisoned last year?
We're planning on sending the letters out either late this week or early next week. That'll just explain that we delayed the program and that the public hearing is scheduled for March 9th is what we're shooting for.
Improve appearance and landscape in Ann Arbor Road Rail Overpass. This has been an ongoing issue whenever you're dealing with MDOT, Wayne County, and the rail companies. It is a very slow, arduous process. It took us a while even to get MDOT to admit ownership and responsibility there. We hope to get some comments back from them as early as this week. And we are hoping that this is a collaborative project where we would be willing to spend some money to improve the planting, the greenery, the stormwater management, the accessibility, get a safer sidewalk under there. We cannot touch the railroad overpass itself. We'd love it if CSX would replace it, or at least repair it and fix the crumbling concrete and paint it and make it look better. But the rail companies, again, are very difficult to work with. We're doing our best on that one. It's a long shot if they'll ever repair or replace it absent some kind of a disaster, and we hope that doesn't happen. But in the meantime, we can do a lot to improve the overall appearance of the easements on all sides of the overpass. And that's what we've been working on now for about a year and a half. And, we're making steady progress, but it is slow.
How much money does the DDA have to spend on this project?
Well, we've authorized about $15,000 already for the study that is a collaboration between the township engineers and CSX. We've had to get MDOT involved now because they are a major stakeholder in this thing, and It's been a challenge to get them to come to the table. I don't know if it's COVID, politics, money, or all three, but we have made some progress now with MDOT.
One thing that if you can just at least get permission to paint a mural on it or something like that on the overpass, that would be great.
That's up to CSX, and they don't want anybody touching their stuff.
Even for just authorized painting, I keep pushing on that because
Well,
that's a cheap, easy, well, not easy, it's cheap to put paint on concrete if you do it right.
And besides, Kurt, if they have falling concrete, that's a hazard we could go after them for.
Not us, because we have no say on railroads. That's all the federal government.
You're both right. Basically, the federal government has the overriding control, but I know that MDOT now has just appointed a new railroad equity type director who is supposed to be working with local governments like us on rail crossing issues. So hopefully we'll get some more cooperation from the state on that. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Hold on a minute. Excuse me, please.
Yep.
You said the word infrastructure.
Yep.
Let's sit down with the people from the county, and I'm talking about Melissa Daub, I'm talking about Andrew Candravis, and I'm talking about Warren Evans. Haggerty Road is terrible. Those of us who live in Lake Point are disgusted with the condition of Haggerty Road. The intersection of 5 Mile and Haggerty, which you thankfully have informed me is scheduled to be taken care of this next year, is also terrible. And I would like to have a chance when we sit down with Melissa Daub, Andrew Candravis, who is the county liaison from Southgate, a Southgate resident, and let's have at it.
Well, you have stolen my thunder for the next bullet point, because that's exactly what we're aiming to do.
Right.
I'd like to develop a long-range road repair plan with the county, and we've cited Beck, Haggerty, and McClumpha as some of the worst examples. There are a lot of measuring units. The one that the people in the road business use is called PACER. It's an acronym, I'm sure, Jeremy, for something. But there's the PACER system. We can also put together a database on citizen complaints, on our own staff observations on what road conditions are. I use Beck Road as an example because right now Beck between Ann Arbor Road and M14 is not in great shape, but it's not falling apart. But it's going to be in bad shape in the next couple of years. We want to be able to start identifying not only the short-term problems like McClumpha and Haggerty, but also some of the longer range issues that we're going to encounter, so that when we get calls from the public, we can at least provide some hope that, yeah, the county is going to take action on this in a certain time frame.
Mr. Supervisor, I love it when people say there's a formula, there's a PACERS, which I have looked at. My friend Joe Palomera, longest serving Wayne County Commissioner, recently got money going around the corner of Act 51 and going around the PACER system for another bridge to Grozeal.
Right.
So I'm hoping we can do a little horse trading and see a little more money from the county spent in Plymouth Township on our roads.
Well, and I know Jeremy and I have had this conversation as well. And I think if we put together a plan that is workable, that we can also go after other funding that is out there outside of Act 51. So I don't know, did we lose Jerry, or is he taking?
Oh, he's still here. He went off camera. What's Act 51 again?
Act 51 is the state road funding that goes to cities, and it does not go to townships because it goes to the county, and the county's supposed to spend that on us.
Yeah.
Splits the road tax money up.
Yeah.
Divides it up. Gas tax.
It's the gas tax money, yeah. Okay, bid for maintenance contract for all facilities. This, I think, was one of Jerry's, so I'm gonna skip that for now. And
well, I can chime in on that. Him and I have talked about it. It's a great idea that he's got here because we have kind of a willy-nilly plumbing, heating and air conditioning, electrical contracting system that is somewhat at the whim of timing or availability, and in some cases, the township employee's friend or acquaintance or something. So to get some type of rate that's standardized and with some expectation of what it would cost versus everything is ad hoc right now.
Well, what bothers us is the fact that the HVAC system seems to break down
A lot.
at least twice a year, usually on the hottest day of the year. And it just seems like it's the same people coming out every time to do the repair, but there's never a long-term fix. And it kind of gives you the impression that people are, maybe making money off us that they shouldn't be. So we'd like to bid that out. And we'll figure out how to do that. I don't know all the details on that one yet. New safer service at entrance to Township Hall. I'm sorry, Chuck. I know you like that concrete out there, but man, it is slippery as hell right now.
We hired the wrong company and they made an error, and I told Lewis how to fix it. I have stamped concrete for years, and I gave him the name of the product, whatever, but the contractor we picked made a mistake and put a slippery surface on there.
Okay.
In fact, it would have been better that they didn't put the coating on. The whole thing I wanted was the crack filling. They went the next step and put the coating on to make it look pretty, and they made it slippery dangerous. So
I think he's on the
putting the
call.
sand on, when you put the coating on, you put sand on top of it and it works fine. So they made a mistake and we didn't supervise them correctly.
Well, let's find out if we can make some repairs in the spring before we start all over again. Because nobody
All we
wants.
need to do is let's power wash it now, take off the surface, and it'll be okay.
You
Carefully.
want to power wash it now? Not right now.
Well, on a day
in the
that's
spring.
above freezing, you can do it.
Mitigate the oleaginous substance that's on top of that. I have already had one township resident come in and want to sue for slip and fall, but for the loss of his front teeth.
You're right. So that's why we need to take that shiny surface off.
Mhm.
What are
Okay.
you talking about? Where at?
The entrance to Township Hall.
Pink concrete in front of Township Hall.
Hmm.
It's the stamped concrete.
Chuck, I believe you're absolutely correct. I had the same issue personally at home where they put a coating on top of it, but you're supposed to put this gritty substance in with the coating to not make it slippery. And I took out a lot of people when they were coming up to my front porch, because when in the winter, when it gets wet and cold, it just turns into a sheet of ice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I invite you. You guys come up to my front porch right now. It's done right. I actually did it myself. It took less than 20 minutes.
All right, well, you're hired.
Okay,
Well,
Hey, he's hired.
we got a bid from Chuck. Anyone else?
we don't have to bid that out, so that's good.
Trustee
All right.
Kermy, you can ask your fellow paisan, Tony Bruscato, about the oleaginous substance that was on the compass at the corner of Main Street
Yes.
and Ann Arbor Trail. And that caused a slip and fall and an accident with a motorcycle. Likewise, ended up in my law office. The substance was removed.
Mm.
That's
I
why
know
we
they're-
remove what we got right now.
Hey, Chuck, I know there was some structural issues too out there. I was out there when Mark met with the contractor too, just looking at it. So there's this other stuff other than just the slip and fall going on with that sidewalk as well.
Right. That's why I wanted 4 years ago to seal the cracks, because that's what's exacerbating it. The water's getting underneath the concrete.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
We got that down. This was not one of mine, but it's install a fire emergency escape system on the north side of the second floor of this building. There is currently only one stairwell, which is over by my office, and then there's another stairwell that the public uses, but there's no egress on the north side of the building. I don't know how much that would cost. Jerry's back with us, and if he can hear me, then if you just want to elaborate more on that one, Jerry, because that was one of yours, I believe.
Yeah, yes, it was, Mr. Supervisor and fellow trustees. The issue is up in that northwest corner. There's no exit of any type, even on the first floor. At least on the first floor, if you knock a window out, you can land on your feet on the ground. But up on that second floor, we have offices, and in case of an emergency of some sort, whether it's caused by a person or a fire or a gas leak or something, you have only one way. You have two ways out, but you got to traverse the whole length of the building to get down to the stairwell or the exit stairwell behind the supervisor's office. And so I just think as a caution, we should certainly at least look into that and see if there's some inexpensive way of having some sort of device there that would allow people to do an emergency exit.
So I agree that that's a good idea, and a low cost way to do it is you cut a man door and you use a steel outdoor stairway that is they prefabricate it, they bring it in, set it up with a foundation. It's relatively low cost. You're not doing a lot of brick and mortar. It should be doable if we find the right person to set it up and not create a major architectural project.
I agree.
You could drop them right down into Jerry's office.
Exactly.
A fire pole
We could have a fire pole going down there, of course.
right into Jerry's office to the bat poles. All right, next, closed sidewalk gap at north end of McClumpha, closed sidewalk gap on south side of North Territorial from Cemetery City border. Chuck, I think those are yours.
Yeah.
We all share your
First
concern
one,
on.
McClumpha, that's easy. We've already done the work. The layout is done and we have the easement. And I realize, yes, there is some issue with the intersection at Andover Trail. So you just stub it off. And eventually when the county or something else changes, in light of the discussion we had on land use, and people want to be able to bike and run and walk safely. So this would, right now you're just running on a 100-foot wide section easement of somebody's front yard.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, that's true, along that stretch, but those are not the only stretches. And I might suggest that we take that up as a separate conversation, because we have, we've got gaps here and here and here. And back to what Laura presented earlier, the map, shows where there may be a gap on one side of the street, but it would really be helpful. And I know this from my own experience, particularly when my kids were smaller and they couldn't ride a bike from point A to point B because there would be some 100-yard gap or 150 or 200-yard gap where you'd have to go into a main street. So we ought to look at that kind of across the board and prioritize a filling of the gaps, throughout the community, I think.
You're right, but we already voted to essentially decided to do this last year. It was stopped for COVID.
Right.
And this empties right into Township Park.
Yeah, no, these are absolutely, there's no question, these are important areas that need to be addressed. I'm not disputing that at all.
On the next one with North Territorial from the cemetery to the city border, I know the city, where it empties out is a very wide easement. So the city eventually, I think, could be induced, their DDA may want to build their portion because it's leading people to the downtown business district by bicycle and foot. But anyway, at least one person has been hit by a car over the years at, what is it called? Ridgewood on a bike. So this one, we don't need any easements, right, Jeremy? We already own them because of the way the homes were platted 100 years ago.
It's all within the county road right away is what it's designed at right now.
And this was on the list for last spring also, right?
I got a little involved in this last year because what would have to take place with this particular stretch of sidewalk is it would have to go in front of 3 homes and then the church. And then it would also have to go in front of the cemetery and in front of a pond that is there. So that's the stretch that we're talking about. And the woman who's lived in that house for pretty close to 50 years next to the pond would call me pretty much every week in tears about this project going forward. And basically what we agreed is that we would not go ahead and do this project without the homeowner's permission, which was not granted to us. And so we kind of stopped the project at that point. But I personally am not a big fan of that particular stretch because I don't like, you know, we'll have to either take a little field trip or take an aerial view look at this, but going around that cemetery would be extremely hazardous. You're almost on the road at that point. Going around that pond would be extremely hazardous. And then you're cutting across 3 people's front yards, taking out these mammoth trees that have been there for 100 years. And then you hit a dead end because you hit the city of Plymouth. So, you know, you're disrupting a cemetery, a pond, 3 homeowners for the benefit of one subdivision in the township. And then the road stops because you hit the city of Plymouth. So I think I might have coined the phrase a road to nowhere, but it clearly at this point is a sidewalk to nowhere because it doesn't go anywhere. And if you're going down North Territorial in the opposite direction as you're going towards the firehouse, there's no sidewalk there either. So I'm not a big fan of this stopgap measure.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, you might have an opinion on this, that unless we get an easement from the homeowner, we can't, as a township, we can't force our way in anyways, right? We have
No.
to get it.
Yes, unless it's in a county right of way.
We already have the easement. We don't need an easement. I guess, Mark, I'd like to beg to differ with you on a couple things. Number one, I didn't know that the township board agreed not to do it because it made a lady upset. We've had these situations before, and the people have found that once they were in, they were happy. We have sidewalks that go near ponds now. People aren't falling in them. Jeremy has already engineered the route around the cemetery, and the cemetery is a historical spot. This is a great place for a sidewalk, and the sidewalk gap going west will be closed when the Purcell, or substantially closed when the Purcell property is developed with the 12 houses that were mentioned today.
That's just one driveway.
No, it's
All right.
several hundred feet of frontage west of Eaton Estates.
We can talk about this later, and we can obviously all.
We'll talk about that later.
You and I will take a drive and I'll show you. And I don't know of any 100-year-old trees that are in the route. Jeremy, I think you can confirm that.
Okay. Jeremy, the other thing I want you to confirm with respect to North Territorial and maybe Ann Arbor Trail is it is my understanding that we do not have the easements along there for sidewalks because as time has gone on, those, as the road has widened over many decades, those easements were absorbed or subsumed by the road itself, and they no longer legally exist. I'm not asking for an answer right now, but that is something that I believe your predecessor had to deal with in trying to get some of these easement rights from the impacted homeowners. And remember, we also had homeowners along North Territorial that just did not want sidewalks in front of their house. I mean, just flat out not in my front yard. So, okay, but we'll have that discussion later, but I think we all agree that we need to close gaps that are out there, and it just goes with the whole sidewalk connectivity issue. All right, anybody else? Item 3 is fiscal integrity. Review and update collection rates for transport, emergency recovery, and hazmat. Anybody want to comment on that one? I think it's just kind of normal that we should do that.
Yeah, I think Chief Phillips may need some, maybe the finance director may need to help him on this, or do we need to change our collection company? I don't know the statistics. We need to have a report. And I think that maybe the finance director has to help with that because it's kind of how much we've collected, how much we wrote off, what should we do different?
Okay.
Kurt, what are you talking about what do you mean by transports? Transport, since I'm new, I don't know what that means.
Ambulance.
Ambulances, okay.
And not only for us, but for Huron Valley Ambulance as well. Because they also charge rates and they have an escalating fee structure.
But we don't worry about their collections. That's their job, right?
No, but we do worry about their fees. I mean, we want to be consistent with them.
Yeah, and hopefully, we want our fees to align as much as possible with insurance reimbursements. We certainly don't want to leave money on the table. So if the insurance is willing to reimburse X, we don't want to charge 80% of X, but we also don't, we're not in this to profit from our residents either.
Right.
We just want to recover our costs.
Okay, next I've got study options for new trash hauling contract in 2022. Our contract with GFL expires in 22. So we just need to start preparing for that and probably look at doing a bid out in maybe at the fourth quarter of this year. So we'll see who else is out there and you know, there's not a lot of trash haulers left. The market's they've pretty much consumed each other over the last decade or so, but it's obviously we need to see who is out there and what their prices are going to be.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, sir.
let me support you and the township attorney to go negotiate in our best interests. I can't imagine you doing anything else, and report back to us with a recommendation, period.
Yep. Okay, the next items are not new to us. Lease or repurpose the unused portion of the DPW building. We did bid that out late last year. We did not get anybody interested in leasing that portion of the building. So that's just kind of out there. Maybe Jerry has got some ideas to put election equipment back there or some other, if there's other surplus items that we might want to store there. And then selling the surplus property around the DPW building is still an ongoing item. Determining the tax status of Henry Ford Hospital and adjacent properties. At some point, maybe it might not be until next year, but we're going to have to find either a tax attorney or a tax expert, an assessing expert of some sort, maybe a couple different people who can help us determine what's the level and rates and types of taxation that are allowable at that particular facility. Bearing in mind that hospitals typically are tax exempt, but there are other medical types of operations that are taxable that could be taxed within that building, such as a professional corporation of doctors is a possibility. Maybe a pharmacy or a pharmacist could be taxed, whereas the hospital itself might not be. I understand there may be a Starbucks inside the hospital at some point. That's certainly not a medical facility. And then we also have to weigh that against the possible outbuildings that we're going to have there. The current plan is that there will be some kind of drive-through food establishment. We don't know what the other business will be. It may be health related, it may be rehab, it may be optical, but almost every parcel is going to have some different type of taxing element, and then we may have multiple layers within the building itself. So we just want to make sure that our residents get their money's worth for what's going on at that site, and that may not happen until 22, but it needs to be on our radar.
Kurt, Henry Ford is under the assumption that it's 100% non-taxable, correct?
They have not told us that. And I've had some very.
They probably know the law better than us.
Oh, they sure do. I mean, they do this all the time in different communities. So I think it's just incumbent upon us to trust but verify and find some either expert lawyers or other tax experts, maybe consult with some other governmental entities to see how these facilities have been handled in other municipalities like West Bloomfield, Farmington, other places where not only Henry Ford, but maybe some other hospitals like Beaumont or others, Providence, have handled it in their communities.
Well, Northville has the facility
U of M.
Yeah, on 7 Mile Road.
Yeah.
That's a new one, so
Yeah.
maybe they know something.
Well, and
At a very high level, very high level, if you have a property, let's say it's 10,000 square feet and it's tax exempt because it's owned by a nonprofit, if you had 1,000 square feet of that property being used as a Starbucks, a for-profit, then on a prorated basis, that 1,000 square feet would be subject to tax. But that's a really high level statement, and I don't want to get any more into the weeds.
right. So just want that on your radar. Succession planning for key personnel. I think we are going to, during this calendar year, we may be losing some key department heads to retirement or others moving on to other jobs. So we just need to be aware that this may happen. And again, this is just something I don't want to get into, do not want to get in the weeds on this one tonight, but it's just something that we all need to be mentally prepared for, because I suspect that we will see some retirements this year of key department heads. Quiet. Okay, I'm turning the
Because it's
page.
that key department head, so it doesn't so it doesn't include me. I know that's not a key position.
Essential. So it's not me or
No, not me.
the essential ones. All right, I'm turning the page now. Mark Clinton, I would like you to take like the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that all seem to deal with water,
Yeah.
water billing and all that good stuff. You want to comment on that?
Yes, thanks. This is kind of an area of the township that hasn't changed in a long time. And I think when you're looking for areas for improvement, this is an area that we could improve in, not only for ourselves in terms of efficiencies, but for our residents as well. And I'll just kind of go through them briefly one at a time. The first one is develop remedies for good faith accidental water. It happens at least 25 times a year. You know, I'll give you a couple scenarios. Somebody goes south for the winter and their sump pump goes crazy on them, and they come back, and we only read the meters once a quarter. They come back and they've sent them a $4,000 water bill, and they said, "Well, I wasn't even home." We said, "Well, sorry, but your sump pump was running." And you know, then the best thing we offer them is a 25% discount on their sewer, and we put them on a payment plan. And I think we've got to come up with something better. The other scenarios in the summer, right, their irrigation system springs a leak. They don't know it until 3 months later when we send them a bill for $5,000. So I think we have to come up with a different approach for how we handle those types of good faith, I sprung a leak, I didn't know it types of situations, because they can get pretty expensive for these 25 people a year who are having these issues.
So how do you, whatever you do, I don't want the township, other users to be the insurer of people's bad luck. So you're gonna have to figure out something creative.
Yeah.
So what percentage of the meters out there now are readable remotely? And are there analytics available now with these remote tools that would tell you that, you know, flag an account when it starts going berserk?
You're jumping ahead, Bob, but it's a good time to talk about it, because one of my recommendations here under technology is that we implement an automated meter reading system in the township. It's outrageous that we have people walking the township every day reading meters by hand. I gotta believe we're the only community in Western Wayne County that does this. And Patrick and I have been investigating and having meetings, very preliminary meetings, with companies that do this. And you can put 3 to 4 towers in the township that will have radio frequency that will read every meter, every minute of every hour in the township. And so it gives you so much flexibility in terms of how you start billing your customers, how you address possible issues. And you can make your money back fairly quickly. There's an ROI in terms of doing this. So I don't want to go into the details of all this, but I think it's time that the township get into the 21st century or even the 20th century and come up with an automated meter reading system instead of sending people out on the streets reading them by hand. So to answer your question, if we can identify problems by the minute,
Right.
we're having issues.
And I
we
mean,
can-
that's the key, because I think as you know, the example you articulated is that, I mean, it should scare every one of us that we go on vacation for 2 weeks and like you said, your sprinkler system springs a leak and we come back and we have a $4,000 bill. That could happen to any one of us.
Yeah, it could, absolutely, yeah.
That's why you have to have a backup system, or you have somebody monitoring your
Well,
system.
you're gonna pay the neighbor kid to come over every 45 minutes and look at your meter and see if it's spinning.
Like I said, it's not the water user's job to ensure everybody's loss. People have to take personal
No, but to
responsibility.
Mark's point, in bringing us into the 21st century, if we have the tools and the analytics to spot problems early on, I mean, it's like, if we can spot problems as they're occurring, then you can shut that problem down.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden we knew that Chuck Kermy's house uses X amount of water per month, and all of a sudden your water usage just spiked in a 24-hour period, to the level that it shows that you had an open faucet during that time, we can do something about it. We can intervene before it becomes a problem.
Okay, it becomes a cost benefit thing, but Mark, what you're saying is these transmitters that are being installed now to allow reading by drive-by, that's not adequate. You want to go another level.
I believe that we could put, the particular solution that we were looking at had radio cell towers at 4 different locations across the township.
All right,
So-
well, maybe when 5G comes or whatever, we don't need to build towers. We can use theirs or something. I don't know. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
We're not talking about building towers.
Yes, that's what
No,
you
no,
said.
Yeah,
You'd have to put a transmitter or a receiver on a tower somewhere.
yeah. I mean, for example, we could put one right on top of Township Hall here as an example.
Right.
You don't have to build new towers.
All right,
Treasurer
All right.
Clinton,
go slow.
please know the backlash in Canton Township and conversion to monthly water bills. I pay a monthly water bill here at my office in the city of Plymouth, and I like it. It was fine. But there was a significant backlash by the people in Canton Township, and they thought that it was a significant increase in their water bills. So we have a lot of work to do to make the case for need and why this is more efficient, and that we're on the side of the individual homeowner and user of waters. Because when we convert to a monthly basis, we could face a backlash. And I don't want to face anything like what has been going on in Canton Township.
Well, I didn't say that we were going to monthly billing. I'm saying that when you put in an automated meter reading system, like it gives you the flexibility to do those types of things. Moving on, the water billing methodology, I don't know how long the current methodology has been in place, but it's an extremely complicated water billing system. And over time, how we pay for our services has changed. For example, GLWA charges us now 60% fixed costs and 40% variable costs, but we're still charging our homeowners pretty much on 100% variable usage charge. If you look at Livonia, for example, their water billing is so system. Here's your flat charge and here's your usage charge, period. It's got nothing to do with the size of the meter. It's got nothing to do with anything else. I've always been a little bit, anytime we change it, everybody is going to be impacted. So I've been a little concerned in the past about doing that, but I think that should be a goal of ours over the next year or two, is to do a complete overhaul of the billing system to make it simpler and more fair across the board. Next point is implement a 30-day water billing cycle. It's kind of along the same lines. If we get more automated, we'd be able to do this. But today, since we're sending people out into the field and manually reading these meters, by the time somebody gets their water bill, they only have 18 to 21 days to pay it. And then after that, we charge a 5% penalty. And in situations like we've had during the past several months where the post office has been slow, people are getting their water bills and they're due the next 3 or 4 days because the post office has been so slow. So we got to get to a industry standard at a bare minimum, a 30-day billing cycle. But our current processes won't allow us to do that. I think
Credit cards, what are credit cards? 25 days to 28? I think a lot of credit cards are 25 days.
yeah, I don't know. Don't know.
I think so.
So we're at 21, so we're 3 days, no, 4 days longer than, okay, shorter, excuse me.
Ordinance change item there?
The evaluate residential water meter change, I think that kind of fits in with the automated meter reading. In order to do that, we would have to swap out every meter in the township. So we're not talking about a small project here. We're talking about a fairly big one. But this is going to happen anyway. Our water meters are old.
Aren't we on a 5-year plan to refresh those right now?
No,
I'm
it's every
checking now.
20 years.
Yeah, they are. Some of them are extremely old, extremely old.
That's
Ordinance.
the question I have. Hold on. I want to look for a more durable water meter. Instruments in an aircraft, the old analog instruments, didn't wear out after 15 or 20 years. I know these are wearing out and becoming less accurate. And it's probably because they don't use brass components anymore. They're using plastic and it erodes. But we need to task our Department of Public Works people to see if they can look for something better. Because it's a lot of labor to change out water meters every 15 to 20 years on every house.
Yeah. And it has to be adaptable with the technology that we're talking about. So the meter has to work with the technology that's reading the meter as well. So, and that kind of limits your options, but I agree. We need to, once we're going to do it, it's got to last for a long time. I don't know how many people are familiar with this, just dropping down, but we currently have an ordinance that if you have not paid your water bill, if you're over 6 months delinquent by September 1st, then that water then goes on your tax bill. So think about that for a minute. If you haven't paid if you're 6 months delinquent as of September 1st, we pull it off and we put it on your tax bill that goes out December 1st, which means September, October, November, people are confused because all of a sudden their water bill just went down. And then all of a sudden it miraculously 3 months later shows up on their tax bill. It's just a ridiculous time frame that I don't know why it was done that way historically, but I want to make an ordinance change to switch that to November 1st.
And I wonder how many people incorrectly deduct it from their federal taxes because it's not their tax
Oh,
bill.
boy.
It's interesting you say that because that was a ploy that is still used by some people to increase their Schedule A tax deduction. They have their water put on the tax bill and they show it to their accountant or they do it themselves. It's been done a lot.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Mark, is that, if I heard you correctly, is that what that basically does is it gives people an extra 6 months to not pay their bill. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it causes confusion to the homeowners because between September and December, their water bill has changed. And then that amount shows up on their tax bill in December. It also causes confusion for us because inevitably, everybody comes in during those 3 months and they want to pay their water bill. And we say, okay, you can pay it. And we just added 35% to it too. And then they throw a hissy fit.
So refresh my memory, what proportion of people or percentage of people roughly, are past the delinquency date in there?
Percentage wise, it's probably 1.5% to 2%. So it's always the same people and it's always the same amount. I can pretty much tell you it's going to be $350,000 a year that goes on to the tax bills, the delinquent water bills.
Okay. So Mark, we're gonna put you in charge of that one for sure.
All right. And Dave, so that's it. I'm done with the
Okay.
the water billing suggestions.
Any questions on all that whole water stuff? Okay. Updating board meeting policies and procedures, a greater use of consent agenda. I've sent you a draft already. I've also sent it to Kevin. He's made some changes from a legal standpoint. I'd like to adopt those rules at our next board meeting. The last time we did this was 4 years ago. So I don't, you all have a copy of it right now. And if there's anything that you have any issues with, please let me know.
Kurt, I want to ensure that we don't use this like some school districts do to brush everything into the consent agenda without discussion. And in your proposed draft, you said it takes 2 board members to have discussion. It should be 1 person. If they want to discuss it, that 1 person should be able to discuss it. I think that'll be too much obfuscation or whatever. So I urge you not 2 people. Just
Okay.
if somebody wants to discuss it, why not? Doesn't hurt.
Well, and we can also, we've been doing an expanded consent agenda the last couple of meetings, and we're certainly open to questions and stuff that come up. I just don't. We're really trying to do is expedite the meeting so that we're not casting roll call votes on stormwater agreements and easements and really ministerial mundane things that we know what the outcome is, and we're just going through the motions literally. And it just, if we can streamline that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think it would be helpful to do that. But I also agree with what Chuck said, that if one of us does feel strong enough about pulling something off for a discussion, we ought to have that flexibility to do that. But otherwise, I agree with what you said, Kurt.
I want to thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Ministerial functions belong in the consent agenda.
Yes,
The
sir.
place where I'm concerned about maybe stretches happening is budget amendments. That's sometimes how things can get slipped through. Oh, here's just a budget amendment on the consent agreement. So, our consent agenda. Anyway, that's my concern is.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's legit. There are some budget amendments that we may be making during the year. I know Finance Director Ginger Moriarty is a real stickler about budget amendments, and I agree with her. I think that's the proper way to do it. And I guess it's going to be, we're going to know it when we see it, if there's a budget amendment or a move of money that has some kind of policy implications and it is not merely again an administrative thing. So I'll certainly keep that in mind, and I think that there are sometimes budget amendments that do have policy implications, and those should be left up to the regular agenda.
Well, I think Ginger, she will eventually learn that there's a difference between a city and a township on how money goes. We get into a lot more detail in townships than cities do. City councils typically don't get into budget stuff like townships are supposed to do.
So next up, I've got updating fee schedules where needed. Jerry, I don't know if we need to it's been a while since the FOIA schedules were updated. I have already received a list from Sherry Parmelchuk and Mark Lewis and Laura Haw about fee schedule adjustments that they would like to see. So again, I'll present those to you guys at some point in the spring, and we'll take a look at that. If there is no need for any adjustments, there won't be any, but it's time. This is a good time for us to take a look at that. And we have had some suggestions from staff based on their experiences over the last 4 years. And Kevin Bennett.
We have to be careful about building, because building revenue can only be used for the building department. So we don't want to be over collecting, right?
Right. Yep.
And that's part of economic development. If you have competitive fee schedule, that helps people want to locate where we live.
Indeed. Switching payroll processing from ADP to BSNA. Mark, you and I met with Ginger pre-COVID last year because she was thinking about switching over from ADP. I'm just going to put that on there as a goal, but it's really up to her and HR and the others to to see what their comfort level is on that. There's
Yeah.
pros and cons to both, I guess.
There's definitely pros and cons. Cost savings would be, I mean, significant cost savings would be one of the pros. The other pro would be, you know, in budget development, right? If you think that 80% of our budget development process is around, my lights went off.
Whoa,
Oh, power outage.
This
we need
means
a
I'm
generator on that list. Wow.
right, but 80% of our budget process is around salary and fringe benefits, et cetera. If that's already in the BSNA system in the payroll module, you just put that into the budgeting module and boom, your 80% of your budget is done. So there's a lot of efficiencies to be done. I don't know enough about the BSNA payroll module to say it's good or bad, but I'll soften up the language to say it's something we should explore seriously.
Yeah, the only the input I'll provide at this point, just bear in mind that with the ADP as an employee, I can go in and I can see my pay stub, and all of my employers always use ADP. So
Yeah.
just, take that into consideration, that how are employees going to be able to see their stuff.
Yeah, the people who, from an end user perspective, ADP is great. The people who use it on a day-to-day basis say it's antiquated, and not flexible.
Yeah, yeah, that may be true. I don't have firsthand knowledge.
Yeah,
Okay, increase dog license fee and sell at veterinarians. I don't know.
I've never seen this one before.
Yeah, I know. Treasurer
novel.
doesn't like this one, but this is my rationale. We've had a $5 dog fee for 50 years, and for your information, it's designed to protect people from dogs that aren't rabid, so it ensures that you are inoculating your dog for rabies. In our community, that's not as big a problem, but and then a very small percentage of our dogs are being licensed. So in order to get more licensed, more people committed to it, have them sold raise it to $10 and have it sold at veterinarians.
Do
So
veterinarians do that? Do they
streamlining something there.
do they do that? Do they get compensated for it or something? The vet?
Most veterinarians don't, they just do it as a service.
Mm-hmm.
But Oakland County has much higher dog licensing fees than we do. We're at $5. Oakland County has some places which are 15 to 25. So 10 wouldn't be bad. Livonia is at 8. But we need to get more of the dogs licensed, especially if they get lost and they're not chipped. So whatever. The next
Okay.
one is lower township millage rate by $0.5 mil. Oh, that'll make everybody excited. A couple of reasons here. I think that we are over collecting. I think we can skinny down. When the 500 houses get built in Salem Township, which has a 0 township tax rate compared with our 5.2, there'll be some competitive pressure. Northville Township reduced their administration fee to 0 for tax collection. And what we can do with this, we can dial it in every year in September with some years we may have to increase it if something looks bad. In fact, some people are saying if you believe the Michigan Municipal League, they think everything's going to be bad and municipalities aren't doing well. I think they're probably wrong. They're doing much better than most people thought in March would happen. So I'd like us to consider this, and September is the opportunity to do it. It's a lot easier, I think, than trying to take the administration fee away for property tax, because that way you'd have to put an ordinance in every time. And when you report to the county every September and submit that form, this is when you could do it. So I know it'll make people nervous, but I think it's something people need. We need to make sure that people have everything they can in their personal pockets now, not being transferred to the government.
Amen. I'll put.
Well, that's $1 million hit in revenue. And we just went to the voters a couple of months ago to ask for an extension to our fire millage. for $2 million a year. I mean,
A half a mil is not $1 million.
what's that?
Half a mil, I think, is probably something like 750,000.
It's $1 million.
Well, let's look into that. No, I don't want that. That's a big number. But remember, we also $1 million. We don't want to do $1 million, but we got to do some homework. Remember, we got $600,000 from COVID also in 2020. So we have some flex.
And we also got $20 million of unfunded long-term liabilities.
Yeah, and those get paid as we go. We've got a plan in place. Pay as you go here. We're adding money to it. Okay.
I better put on record, I was a full-time employee of the Michigan Municipal League, only located 21 miles from here on North Campus in Ann Arbor. And I will rely and I will look to a recommendation from the treasurer and the finance director in regard to any township finances. I don't want to see the politicization of a tax reduction, because that is just exploitation of numbers. So we will look to Treasurer Clinton. I will look to Treasurer Clinton. I will look to the finance director, and I want to go from there. I was in personnel and finance at Michigan Municipal.
Who are you suggesting is politicizing this?
Please don't even go there.
All right, we'll have, we're not debating or anything tonight. We're just, it's on there as a goal, and we'll decide if that's a priority or not. So I'm going to move on.
Tax rates are the job of the township board.
Okay. Revisit decision to outsource HR and payroll functions. We've already talked about payroll. Mark, do you want to talk about the HR thing? I don't know. That's kind of that's a holdover from last year, and that was one of yours. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, this issue just continues to come up. I think we're on our 4th payroll consultant now, and there's a big learning curve when you bring in these payroll consultants, and it's just, I think the people who deal with our outsourced HR and outsourced payroll service on a day-to-day basis will tell you it's not working. And they're really looking for a full-time person who's available on, 24/7 for questions, and you don't have to schedule time to talk with somebody.
So when you say
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Mark. When you say we're on our 4th, do you mean the outsourced providers had turnover in their staff? Is that what you mean? Or
there's 2 functions that are outsourced here. There's HR and there's payroll.
right.
And the payroll is basically a part-time position. They come in for a couple days every 2 weeks, process the payroll, and leave.
Right. It's that company, I forget the name of them, but.
Oh, but payroll clerk is a township employee, I thought.
No.
No?
No.
No, so sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead, Mark, please.
No, she's a payroll. No, John, we're conflating 2 different things here. So we have Ecto HR, which is Laura Ketchor. She is our HR person. She works like Laura Haw or Kevin Bennett or Jeremy. She's an outside contractor. She's here a couple days a week. She is not here 24/7, but like our other consultants, she is available. And I really don't get any flack from employees about her. I don't. Now, Mark, our experiences may be different. I don't know. But I know, like, for example, we've had some very prickly HR issues that have come up in the last couple of years, and she's been very responsive. We went through the whole transition to MERS for the pension and retirement benefits. She was extremely on top of that and very helpful in helping that get through and maintaining that and monitoring that. So I believe that she has done an excellent job, and we're the guys, me, Sue Brams, the department heads are the people who deal with her the most. With respect to the payroll clerk, that's a township employee because
I just said it wasn't.
No, she's hired. She was hired by Ecto HR. She was hired by Laura Ketcher, but I approve her time cards every other week.
Okay.
Um,
I stayed-
Now, so that woman right now is doing an excellent job. That we have had some problems in the past. We had a woman with this, it's a position that does require a high degree of skill and familiarity, again, with the ADP system. We had a person who can't, it's been sort of our hard luck position to fill. We had one lady come in here who I don't want to get into it, but I just don't think she wasn't equipped to handle it. I think she either didn't understand the system or wasn't straight with us when we interviewed her. We had another woman who allegedly had a serious health issue and had to resign. We had another lady who was, she was doing a great job, but then when COVID hit, she went home, she quit to homeschool her kids or her grandkids.
But-
So the latest woman that we've got in that position is doing a fine job. And, I just say it's unfortunate that that's been sort of a rotating position, but the HR function I still think is
So I still don't, there's something I don't understand about what you just said. Help me understand this. So if we've outsourced this function to a consulting firm, why is it our problem that they can't seem to keep a qualified person? Isn't that their problem?
Yeah, it is their problem. And that's why when these people have walked out on us or quit or had a health issue, we advertise that position, and then the HR consultant does the ultimate hiring or recommendation to hire. And they do.
But they are a township employee, not an Ecto HR employee.
No, they are a township employee, the billing person, the
Payroll clerk.
the payroll clerk. Yeah.
What the treasurer is talking about is that some of the end users of some of those services are the accounting departments here, and the treasurer, and also in the finance department. We need information from those people, and they're hard to get a hold of. And in the instance where, yes, it was bad luck that 4 people left, when that happens, then it falls on to HR Ecto to fill that void themselves. So they're actually doing the payroll until they find someone. And so we've had this menagerie of people doing this work, and it impacts us on the finance end of things, and then not being able to get a hold of Ecto HR in a timely fashion has been very problematic. I'm not saying that under certain aspects they do a good job, but when you want continuity of service, I think you need, even if you're going to go with Ecto HR, having someone here in the office to get a hold of them, that you don't have to email them, you don't have to call them, wait for them to get back to you for several days. Having someone here, even if you had someone here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as an HR person, and then on top of that, having the part-time payroll person doing payroll as they do it, 15, 20 hours every 2 weeks.
But I'm sorry, Jerry, I still don't understand. So if Ecto HR is the outsourced HR and payroll vendor, why are these people?
No. Originally that was true. They were doing it. And then they said, guess what? We don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. And then, so for the first year they did it, and then it was just a big mess. And so then they went to, well, hire a part-time township, hire a part-time person to do just the payroll portion, and we'll do the HR part. And so whenever that HR, that part-time person is gone, then it falls back on to Ecto HR to do actually that day-to-day work that is payroll. And with all that going on, it presents problems for the accounting department and the treasury department when we're trying to put this stuff together, because we have to use all that and put it into our general ledger, and so if you don't get timely information, then it just becomes a problem. So what we're looking for, and I think Mark would agree, is just having someone there with a little more continuity for the type of service that we provide. We have firemen with all kinds of weird requirements for call-in time, step-up time, same thing with police department. And so the inner workings of how government works is a little bit different than other things. And so just having someone there to answer questions, even for the employees, it's problematic, I think.
I think we need to work on this right now. It seems like the customers, the users of the HR service are not happy or being serviced. And we need to start by finding out, and I have a hypothesis, that we are not realizing the originally planned savings. So we need to look at this in an all-encompassing analysis, and let's then wring out the right solution.
Well, I'd like to talk it over with the Ecto HR people once, especially Jerry, once we have the reorganization in the finance department.
Sure.
Because you've had part-time people in your office who are not available, who work on their schedules only and not anybody else's, and can also be very inflexible. So I don't want to be, snotty here tonight, but
No, I was just trying to describe the problem. I'm not here to be antagonistic. People were not understanding what had happened, and I just wanted to lay it out that what the situation was.
okay. So obviously that will be a goal to revisit. Replace current cleaning service contractor. That's not one of mine. I don't know, Jerry, is that you or Chuck?
That, I put that one on as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I had reports from a couple people who were during COVID were coming in at night and doing work at the same time the cleaning people were here, and basically said all they're doing is emptying garbage cans and leaving. And we certainly are paying these people a lot of money to just empty garbage cans. And I think it's kind of showing around here. I'm not sure they're cleaning. I'm not sure they're doing a great job of cleaning is the bottom line. For the
I'm
price.
vacuuming my own carpet every few months. So.
Who is the contract administrator in Plymouth Township for the cleaning crew?
Mark Lewis.
The building
Okay,
department.
well, that person needs to have a talk with them now. Cleaning right now with COVID is extremely important.
Well, we are
Then,
spraying
if that
this
doesn't
building.
work, then we do something else.
Yeah, we're spraying the building for COVID every weekend right now. So we'll see what the governor wants us to do on Friday. All right, good point on that one. Investigate Township Hall debt refinancing. Mark, I don't think we really have anything right now.
That's Kermie put that in there, and I don't know how much we owe, but with interest rates so low, are there any debt refinancing opportunities that we should look at? Not that we're going to do them, but that we should look at.
Yeah, that I agree with you. I took, when I read that, I took a quick look. That has some possibility. The other ones don't, but Township Hall does. We've got 5 years left on Township Hall, and the last 4 years of it, the interest rate jumps up to 4%. So I'll bet we could, off the top of my head, save $50,000 to $70,000 if we refinance that for the last 5 years. I'll absolutely look into that.
Will you use a bank, or do we have to go through the hassle of high cost of bonding?
I would probably say we'd have to refinance the bonds, but and it's a tough process. I mean, takes a long time, and there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of people get involved. But if you're going to save $50,000 to $70,000 over the course of 5 years, it's probably worth it.
I mean, 5 years times 50 is what you're saying.
No, I'm talking a total of $50,000 to $75,000.
Oh, okay, just the one. Okay, all right.
Mark, is that for the Township Hall building itself?
Correct. Yeah, there's 5 more years on that bond.
Okay, so there's no other bonds out there that really would be worth
The other ones we got great interest rates, 2.3, 2.4%.
Okay.
The rest of our debt is in great shape, but that, like I said, the Township Hall jumps up to 4% next year for the remainder of the bond.
Okay. All right, good. We'll look at that. Engage a new audit firm. I think that's a Kermie.
Now, that's a Kermie thing. We've had the present firm for over 20 years. Most municipalities usually do some turnover to keep people totally honest on fee and get some creativity. Also remember that same firm made a lot of money on us as a result of prior bad decisions that they allowed to happen. So I think we should, especially now we're getting some new people in the finance department. I think we ought to look at this because it keeps people competitive. And with over 20 years, I think we maybe 1998 is when it went in. Okay, they've been there since 98.
Since 98, yeah.
Okay, that's a very long time for an auditing firm in municipal. In private sector, yeah, some firms stay for 50 or 100 years, but in municipal, it sometimes changes. So,
Well, I know at Wayne County, I think when I was there, we were rotating them out every, I would say 3 years, maybe less.
wow. But so that was by design or because you didn't like them?
No, it was, yeah, no, they didn't like the results. No, it was the policy of the auditor general and the finance, the CFO that they rotated them every, I believe, every 3 years.
Yeah, it avoids that's a little extreme, but it avoids a lot of coziness when you change out.
But that was also a $2.5 billion operation as well. So it's.
All right.
Mr. Supervisor, once again, you'll come back to us with your recommendation as to whether you want to dismiss Plant Moran, and as well as the treasurer indicating whether or not you want, who is the most efficient in the best interest of the people of Plymouth Township.
John, what we're doing here is just setting objectives. Maybe when the board votes on these and it gets compiled, it may be considered a low priority. Then they don't have to work on it. They can party.
Okay. All right, gonna move on.
Stop your partying, Heisey.
Stop my partying. That's right. Equity and equality in death benefit for employees over 65 years of age. I got a feeling that's Jerry's.
It certainly,
What's that
it
mean?
certainly is. One of the things you do when you're doing benefits for employees, you treat people equally who are similarly situated. And in this particular instance, once an employee becomes 65, the benefit, the death benefit is cut by 30%. When they turn 70, it's cut by 50%. And this person is doing the same job. And if for some reason they pass on, their beneficiaries get either 50% less or a 30% less than a similarly situated person who has to be young like our supervisor.
So Jerry, you're talking about active employees then? not
Yes.
retirees. Oh,
Active employees. Active employees.
hard to argue with.
Yeah, so I mean, if they're similarly situated, they need to have the same benefit. And I think you could work that out with the company and say, hey, listen, we've got 4 or 5 people who are mature, and you're just gonna have to cover those for that same amount for the same price we're paying you if you want our business. And I think you can work that out.
You really think so, since it's actuarial?
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah,
talking just
yeah.
we're talking just about a few people. I mean, you're talking about 4 or 5 people out of 100. Gary?
Yeah, that's pretty hard to argue with.
Really? It's a common practice to have declining.
I don't think for active, no place I've ever worked, did you have a declining benefit based on your age? You were all part of a group policy.
Group call policy, right.
In
No
the
place
private
I've
sector,
worked.
you don't have people working beyond 65 very much, so it's a moot issue.
Well,
But we do.
but we do.
Yeah.
We got
several.
that white-haired gentleman in the bottom left corner of my screen.
We have a few others.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's look into it. It'd be great if they do it for free, but if there's a cost, we need to evaluate it, because then it becomes up to the employee to insure themselves for the gap.
No, I don't agree with that at
Well,
all.
when you get to be mature and you've had cancer and you got a pacemaker, no one's going to insure you.
No, you can buy
But it's
more
not,
insurance. No, hold on. You will get insured through the township insurance policy without a physical. Usually, that's the way most of it works.
No,
If
what
you-
I'm saying is you're saying for me to go out and get insurance, I can't.
No. You
I'm not insured.
No, I don't agree with that at all. What you're saying is that you have 2 employees and employee A hits a certain age and now they're benefits are reduced by simply because of their age. That's just not right. Might as well use gender too, as long
No,
as we're going to discriminate.
Bob, you're making stuff up. Life insurance works that way. That's the way it is.
No, it doesn't. Not in a group policy. I, I don't know of any corporation. I don't know what's others. What's your experience?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Any place I've ever worked that provided insurance, it was the same across the board.
Yeah,
Well, but it-
right
Okay.
about that.
Okay, so Jerry, that's your assignment, okay?
Thank you.
You gotta put that law degree behind you, put that to work, okay?
What were you saying, Mark?
Well, just an observation. I mean, if our cost is based upon the demographics of our employees. If we had a bunch of 20-year-olds, our life insurance costs would be dirt cheap. If we had a bunch of 70-year-olds, our life insurance costs would be skyrocketing. So the age of the employee is factored into the cost of the life insurance policy. And so is the declining benefit. If the benefit increases, the cost will increase. It's just simple math.
Yeah, but have you ever seen where active employees based on their age, the benefit changes based on their age?
Yes.
Never, you have?
Never seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
That just sounds discriminatory to me.
Okay. Jerry, that's your assignment.
Thank
All
you.
right. The next two I know are Chuck's, so I'm gonna give you those two, Chuck.
Okay, implement medical and dental attestation for working retirees. So what this says is you retire from Plymouth Township, you go to work for Schoolcraft College, and you are if you are eligible for health insurance from Schoolcraft College, then you take it from Schoolcraft College until such point that you retire again, get fired, whatever, and then you come back to Plymouth Township. Right now, it's pretty easy. You just stay on Plymouth Township, and we're funding your health care to the tune of $28,000 a family when you could get it at Schoolcraft College. I estimate that the township could save, all you need is probably 4 or 5 people, no, 3 or 4, and you might save close to $100,000 a year on this. It's commonly done at other municipalities, and it's done sometimes at companies, but mainly other municipalities. We already did the homework on this. We were ready to implement it. It didn't get implemented because people were worried that it would offend some retired employees who were working again after retiring from Plymouth Township. We need to move forward on this. The people in Plymouth Township should not be subsidizing the second careers of our retirees. This is no risk for the retiree. They're covered. If they can't get health insurance somewhere else, they come back to Plymouth Township. It's not a one-way street. It's just while you're working. Very common, widely done, totally investigated by our consultant. He gave us a presentation last year or the year before. This is easy money, and it provides an incentive for employees to manage their life versus just staying on the zero deductible Plymouth Township plan. So,
For the returning members of the board, we are very familiar with this issue, and Chuck is absolutely right. We've researched it extensively, and I don't disagree with his numbers. So I don't have a problem bringing that back on the table. I was actually going to do that, Chuck, remember, in the first quarter of last year, but with COVID and everything, the timing was bad, and we didn't want to. We just don't want to create any more controversy than we already had to deal with because of COVID, and not sure how our meetings were going to be organized and whether they're going to be Zoom or phone calls or in person and all that stuff, meaning that we wanted to make sure that the public had a chance, that the impacted individuals would have a chance to respond, obviously, as well. So
who's got that ball? Our consultant and you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the ball, I've got the files, I've got all the paperwork that we put together 2 years ago, and we probably just need you and I and the consultants, Mark, I don't know if you want to be part of that, but we need to probably just refresh those numbers and see how many individuals we're talking about.
Yeah, I think some people had a concern that we were putting an unfair burden on just the minority of people, but it's not a burden. You're covered, but you're covered wherever you go. with your current employer. So I think that that was some employees maybe unduly influencing certain people. And just like with MERS, remember we had a lot of people saying MERS was going to be cruel and unusual punishment for employees. And
Right.
worked out well.
It's worked out very well. Okay.
The next one's mine also.
Okay.
This has been thoroughly researched also 2 years ago, and it would help along with our HR problem because we have a patchwork of very confusing active retiree choices, and our consultant optimized it, gave some good choices. I say we go forward with this year in time for the annual, what do you call it? The sign up for insurance. What do you call that? The
Annual enrollment.
annual enrollment. I mean, this is another no-brainer that will help our administration of our healthcare benefits massively. And people are, you know, I guess there's going to be, again, it'll be a change. And some employees who are enjoying, you know, things like getting, you know, we have some people who Medicare Part B we pay for, you know, and they're 95 years old. And then we have other people, we have a different, it's a confusing mess that's expensive, and we're not getting any economies, and we're confusing our HR consultants and overworking the system. Also, BSNA then could be, I think, used for the open enrollment or something, or some other, a web-based open enrollment could be done versus the manual paper. Are we using paper still?
No, it's all online.
All right, so I guess it wouldn't, we're already there. All right, so that's what that is.
Okay.
And we got to get working on this fast. When is open enrollment?
Late August.
August, September.
See, you got to give people time to plan, because you have some people who have spouses and children by another marriage and all that.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Fully fund building maintenance funds. I know that's Jerry's. That's the building maintenance fund. Just make
Yeah,
sure
that's
that what we need to.
You know, we pulled some money out when we first ran into this thing last year. We moved money around. Just that, you know, the building here is 15 years old. We have a couple other old buildings. We have a DPW building that's all, you know, that's 30 years old. And we have a 25-plus-year-old fire station. And we just need to really make sure that we are planning for regular maintenance and properly funding it and keep that on an ongoing basis. I just have concerns for that.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on to quality of life. And it's 9 o'clock, a little after 9 now. Pursue joint recreation, regional recreation opportunities with the city of Plymouth. That's always been on there. It's always a good goal to have. We want to be nice to our neighbors. We have a joint recreation master plan with the city. So anytime we can cooperate with them on something that's mutually beneficial, like connectivity, like sidewalks, like green space, linking up with walking opportunities like I-275, anything we can do like that is good. Next item is Gulfview Park. We've planted a bunch of trees there this year. I'd like to come back to the board at some point during the year to create some kind of formal designation of the park as a recreational resource. And that's there are budget issues associated with that, which I have not confronted yet. This is an ongoing issue.
I have a question about the trees that we planted. Who has the ball to water them in the spring and throughout the summer? And who is purchasing the tank to put on the back of the pickup truck to be able to water them?
We have that. We also have the watering bags that were given to us by Wabasto for all of the trees. So all the trees that are our responsibility, we have the bags, we have the watering tank, and we will be doing our trees. The school district will do theirs, and the golf course will do theirs.
Who is the park who's the person that is managing the watering, or will?
I do not know their name at this point, but I would start with Dan Heyman, who's the DPW foreman.
Okay, it'll be somebody in that department, not the parks. Okay.
Not parks, no.
Right.
On another subject regarding quality of life, I've submitted all the comments to you by email, Mr. Supervisor. I think we need to encourage programs for health, fitness, and wellness for the personnel of the township. When I went to oversee all of the bills, this is only the second meeting we've had since the middle of November, and I didn't see one piece of exercise equipment. I don't know what's being used. I didn't see a pair of grippers at somebody's desk. We have a real health, fitness, and welfare problem here with employees and with our citizens. I will be taping a video tomorrow regarding physical fitness, mental fitness, and emotional fitness, and I will be posting it far and wide. I hope that the township, in this initial goal-setting meeting, is willing to say that we support health, fitness, and wellness.
Yeah, we do. And John, take a look at the gym that's on the second floor of the township hall and see if we should improve that.
I haven't been invited there.
Well, you can just walk in it.
I've been waiting for the chief of the police to invite me in there. I went over to the fire station and I want to see once there's a Plymouth Y Father's Day run, and it'll be June 20th this year. The only police officer or firefighter that I've ever seen show up there was Jamie Sinkville, who would run a 5K with me. And she is now employed by the school system. We have more productive people, healthy people, and I want to see the women of Plymouth Township on a walk schedule. Walking during the day, during their work schedule. I want to see fitness incorporated into Township Hall.
All righty then. So
Wow.
I do want to add to that Henry Ford Hospital, about a year ago, when they, again, pre-COVID, and they were on a different schedule, they really want to partner with us on providing free health, fitness, and wellness programs for the township employees. That is something that they have offered to, just to be a good neighbor. So we'll certainly take them up on that. And obviously we should all probably go out and walk and jog a lot more often, no matter who we are, because I could certainly use it. And anyway, Chuck.
I want to do
Mr.
it.
Supervisor, your leadership and example, you were doing a stretching program at LA Fitness before 8 a.m. and then reporting to Township Hall to work by 8 a.m.
Oh,
So, I mean, you were going over there at 6 in the morning. Now, let's not omit, and let's put this on record. You were doing that.
Oh, I still am.
That's past tense.
I
Okay.
didn't do it during the campaign because I was out walking with Vorva for 10 miles a day. He was out hustling me. The guy's a cancer survivor, and he's a lot, as we know now, he's a lot older than I am. So he was out hustling me all the time. Anyway, okay, we're getting a little off track here. Let's keep moving forward. Increase walking, running, and biking options. There you go. We were just talking about that. And that all goes with the whole issue of connectivity and sidewalks and everything. Plymouth Road, Hines, Haggerty corridor improvements and accessibility with county. I've been working on this now for a couple of years with the city and the county and the residents who live around that corridor. So what we're talking about is from Mill Street, starting in the city at Mill Street, going eastward past the Starkweather Loft Apartments, and then that horrible bridge overpass, the Plymouth Road overpass over Hines Park, over Hines Drive, and then going all the way, continuing eastward towards basically Haggerty. It's just an area that really needs a lot of improvement. We've got a lot of residential areas there now on the city side. Hopefully we'll have some more residential at the old Courthouse Grill site. We've got condos across the street from Courthouse Grill, and these people cannot access Hines Park. They want to get in there. And what we've been working with, I've been working very closely with the city to try, and the county, to try to get an access ramp, access path from the southwest corner of Plymouth Road and Hines Drive, so that residents of both communities can safely and easily get down there. It's a work in progress, and we do sometimes sometimes there's really good news and we move forward on it, but sometimes we have some setbacks. But we've got to have the city's cooperation and the county to make that happen. But otherwise, the improvements there are county responsibility, and the bridge over Heinz Drive is in terrible shape. The weeds are terrible. There's debris, there's rocks, it's not accessible. So if we want to be a more accommodating, accessible community for health and wellness and jogging and biking and running, we've got to fix that corridor up. So that's just a goal, and it's one that's a work in progress. Study the use of eco-friendly vehicles. This was suggested by some members of the Environmental Leadership Commission. We just thought that with Rivian right down the street, it would be kind of cool if they would, we'd be happy to test some of their vehicles, or we could employ some of their vans or other equipment, other vehicles that we could use either at DPW or possibly in other fire or other functions of Township Hall. Again, that's a goal. It would be a very neat thing to partner with them on something like that. I'm turning the page. Increased coordination with Plymouth Community Council on Aging. We are already doing that. We need to do more. It was a big setback this year with COVID because we were going to do another fundraiser with them, and that had to be canceled. I would like to, I've talked with Trustee Stewart about this, that if John could serve as like a board liaison to the PCCA, that would be very helpful, so that, we could have a better exchange of information and ideas and all that good stuff. And as the most senior member of the board, you're ideal for that. Oh, he's offline. I can't hear him.
But he's very animated.
I can't hear you, John.
John, unmute.
John.
Unmute. Up in the right corner. Right-hand corner of the screen.
Shoot.
Okay. I don't know where it's.
Well, we saw your hands flying all over the place. You want to repeat
Some
your?
people just can't be trusted with technology.
Bobby Pummel has received over 200 phone calls since Christmas from senior citizens in Plymouth Township. I would like us to continue. I will have a handout of her concerns at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Study feasibility of new golf course entrance off of Ann Arbor Trail. This is something that we've talked about in the past. I don't know if this is something we want to keep pursuing or not.
Yes.
Yes.
Pursue it.
Are you talking about making a curb cut off of Ann Arbor Trails after or reopening what was
Yeah.
a curb cut?
Reverting to the old, but you're going to have to make it a little safer or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, the entrance onto Beck can be very hazardous, and we recognize that.
Yeah.
I think it's slowing our use of the golf course because people are afraid of that Beck Road Powell intersection, especially if they are going southbound.
Right. It's a very difficult turn. So I'm fine with putting that back on a goals list.
Not sure that would be a deciding factor if somebody were trying to choose a place to go play a round of golf, but still, it's probably a worthwhile pursuit.
And we also have to be mindful of the neighbors around there too, because I believe the history behind it originally was that they did not want the entrance in their subdivision area. So, okay, upgrade forest walkway area at Township Park. Clerk Vorva and I were just out there this morning. We took a walk around. This is that forested area right north of the massive parking lot, and there's definitely room for improvement. Today there was still a lot of ice and snow on the ground, but we've got to get out there with mulch and wood chips. We did buy a wood chipper. We are buying a new wood chipper for the park and DPW, so we'll have a lot more wood chips than we've had in the past. We also have to take a look at the bridge. There's two bridges that were built by the the deputy, Mike Mitchell's deputy back in the Shannon Price days. I just want to make sure that those bridges are safe, and we may want to get our MMRMA insurance people to just do a walkthrough and see if there's anything else that they feel might pose a liability concern.
So is that wood chipper going to be used outside, off of township property at any time, like after a storm cleanup or anything like that?
That's not my intent because it's paid for with park money and DPW. They're the primary users, and then the golf course has also expressed an interest, and we don't have a problem with that. But no, I mean, this is not the kind of industrial chipper that you're going to have cleaning up storm debris. That would have to still be contracted out in that scenario. Okay, consider privatization of senior bus service. We've got RFPs on the street right now, and those are due at the end of the month of January, and we'll see what's out there. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll stick with the current plan. And Bob's gone dark now as well, so.
That probably means a potty break. I'm sure he'll be back. There he is.
No, I haven't seen him yet. Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Oh, dropping his stuff. Improve aesthetics and accessibility along Plymouth Road corridor. That's the same thing. We already had that discussion, so that's a duplicate. You can take that off. Research future replacement of golf carts at Hilltop. Mark and I have talked about that with the golf course operators. We still own those golf carts. They are gasoline powered. We may want to look at selling them or refurbishing them or working with ADM, the golf course managers, to swap them out with newer vehicles. So,
does ADM want electric for new or gas for new?
I get the impression they want gas. I don't know, Mark, what did you think?
They currently at Cattails have electric. It would be easier for them to bring in their excess inventory of electric, and electric are more common. The downside is we don't have charging stations at the golf course, so we'd have to implement those. I think in general, electric carts are much more popular than gas carts and have a greater resale value.
They also have a longer life and lower maintenance.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure, I think installing all of the charging stations and all the infrastructure just doesn't make sense at this time in history at Hilltop.
Probably not. No, that would be an added investment. Yeah.
So
there might be a creative way to be able to charge electric vehicles, especially if they're bringing some depreciated ones over that we could purchase or whatever, or come up with an agreement with them, because the savings versus new of reusing their inventory of electrics might offset some of the requirement for charging infrastructure.
Yeah, agreed. No,
So,
that's definitely on the.
Which costs more, electric or gas?
What's that?
Which are more expensive, electric or gas?
I don't know.
My guess is it would be gas or more expensive. It's a much more complex piece of equipment. You have to have an engine, a transmission. With electric, you don't need a transmission.
Maybe Rivian makes golf carts. Who knows?
Wow.
Okay, so we want that on your radar because we will have to address that, I think, at some point this year. The next item is initiate pilot project for a dog-friendly area in the park. Again, I'm just putting it on the radar. We talked about that last year. I don't know when, how, where this would be implemented. I know Laura's poll for the master plan indicated some community support for that, for a leashed dog area. I know, I always remember Trustee Heitman would always tell us that whenever he would go out to the park, he always saw people with dogs and we weren't doing anything about it. So I'm open to suggestions, not tonight, but it's something that we need to consider.
Remember, that was an 80% number on the survey.
Yeah.
Said they would like to try some dogs in the township park. But the other offset is, if you can't do it in township park, the triangle area, also called Gulfview Park, Gulfview, which is kind of free range, that could be a place for people to take leashed dogs, not a dog park, but that's one advantage of having a free range piece of property versus a formalized park.
Correct. And it's not fully connected to Township Park either. So I agree, Chuck. I think that might be the place to do it, but let's think it over some more in the weeks and months ahead. John, I saw you lit up there, but are you okay? Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm waiting for my shot for 3 more sentences.
I saw your Hollywood Square box light up. I thought you had an answer to the question or
No,
something.
no.
Okay.
My kid's being too loud.
I'll wait for your
You're good.
recommendation again.
Okay. Next is encourage citizen and employee health and wellness, partner with Henry Ford Hospital. I think we've talked about that. John, you all set on that one?
Yeah.
Community interaction through sports, athletics, reading to school children, etc. John, you want to talk about that one?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I didn't know you were going to bring this up, but you and I have come from communities like Dearborn and Dearborn Heights and Wyandotte. Police and fire were involved in the community. They were involved in athletic activities and with little children. I would like to see 1 fireman, 1 policeman from Plymouth Township in the schools in March reading. Of course, I'd like to see a lot more than that because it's all about community. And that's what we were used to in Dearborn and in Wyandotte growing up many decades ago.
Well, I will say in the defense of police and fire, you know, we do the fire open house, which is very successful. This COVID year was very weird, obviously, but we did the birthdays, the drive-by birthdays for kids with police and fire. That was incredibly successful. Got us a lot of goodwill on that. You know, nobody has a DARE program or anything anymore. I don't think we have cops in the schools doing anything with kids. I think we should, frankly, but that's another story. But you know, we'll see what we can do and working with the chiefs on that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention along those lines was reading to school kids. I don't know what your experience has been, John, but you know, when I was state rep, it was hit and miss with me. It was maybe I wasn't the right political party, but it was very hard for me to break into the public schools. So you may have better luck than I've had.
Well, Pat Keogh on the school board has offered to be a liaison with Plymouth Township and to make sure that any firefighter or any police officer that would like to read will have an opportunity to do so.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on. Replace wooden fence running along golf course and park entrance. Mark, I think that was you.
These next 2 are mine. I think we need to overall, if we're looking for improvements to the park, we need to look at the fence and then the entrance gate. Not only the aesthetics, but the function of it. It's old and rusty, and every time you go by that wooden fence, posts are missing and down, and I think the park people have to manually close that fence every night. It's just kind of ugly. And and then you look at some of the new subdivisions that they're putting up with nice entranceways and automatic gates that close at a certain time. I think that's something we could look at to improve the aesthetics of the park entrance. It's an important entry point into the township.
Mark, you're talking about the current split rail fence is in bad repair.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, just walk up and down that sidewalk and those posts are just rotted out and falling apart.
They have to repair it every year. They go out and they fix it and they put in new boards but it's just a constant maintenance issue. So
You're
Mark,
talking about that section by the 9th or the 18th hole?
Goes from the park entrance, basically all along there, and then down the driveway to the golf course. Along the very first hole, there's a wooden fence.
Yeah.
It's just in constant state of disrepair.
So Mark, at the entrance of the park, are you talking about the current metal gates
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, they look like a farm gate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little bit rustic.
Yes,
But if somebody runs into it, it isn't expensive to fix.
that's true. Yeah.
All right, interesting. That's good. Then, so you have upgrade park entrance. Is that the fence thing or is that signage? Because I have signage on here, but maybe I misread that.
Yeah, there's the one before that is replace the wooden fence, and the second one is upgrade the park entrance.
Okay.
signage and
Because the
gates.
signage is pretty good, I think. It's all new. We just replaced the signage over the last 4
Yeah.
years.
On the right, when you come in, you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Let's try to get this done soon. Economic development. I would like to hire Gary Heitman, former trustee, as a part-time economic development consultant. We're not gonna make any decisions on this tonight. I will present you with a formal contract to draft. I've obviously consulted with Gary about this. I think he has did a wonderful job over the last 4 years in terms of getting us a better profile, a better reputation in the business community, with his outreach, with his meeting of all of the different businesses in our community, interacting with the chamber. He is still our representative to the MITC Authority. And I'd like to continue that positive relationship with him as our liaison to the business community, and to give him other assignments. If you look at the draft contract that I gave you a couple weeks ago, there is a page that outlines a great deal of tasks and responsibilities that he would have in that position. So there will be a time to discuss this in greater detail, but I do want to put that on your radar.
Remember, Kurt, this has always been done pro bono. When the Daisy BB Gun Company left and they thought it was the end of the world, a group of Plymouth people got together and did economic development. And we had somebody in the 80s, his name was Frank Millington, who I think eventually was a trustee. So we only have 120 acres to develop. So I'm trying to understand why we're doing this now, but we can talk more about it, but is it in the budget?
No.
No? Okay. All right. We got to think long and hard about this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, sir.
only from my perspective, all across Michigan, Plymouth Township, under your leadership the last 4 years, has become known for its sterling example of economic development. I mean, all you need to do, not only with Amazon coming in, all you need to do is look at Haggerty Road. There they are, Lock Performance, Rivian, Wabasto, and Bosch. I mean, those are gems, and we need to maintain them. I get nervous when I hear Rivian wants to move some of their research facilities out to California. So this is a very positive subject to talk about.
Okay.
Kurt,
Well, I
let me
want to move on.
I don't want to
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't want to debate this. I just want to bring up a couple things to consider. The first one is the difference between an employee and an independent contractor. In the past, I've had a lot of experiences this, and every single time I've lost because we've had contractors that the government has come back and said, that is not a contractor, that's an employee, and you have to treat that person as an employee. And I have concerns when I look at that contract, the distinction between an independent contractor and an employee. So I think I'd like to take another look at that. Secondly, I think we have to factor in the cost benefit of this position. And I just did some quick back of the envelope. And in order to justify $40,000 in contractor fees, you would have to bring on an additional $8.4 million of taxable value to the township, which is pretty significant. If you want to weigh that against a company, Adient today is $8.4 million of taxable value. So in order to justify $40,000, you have to bring on every year another Adient into the community. So I think we have to look at the cost benefit of this as well.
Okay.
The Mackinac Center has done evaluations of the MEDC, and it's along your lines. Is that, for example, the MEDC, in their opinion and their analysis, is very low value add for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's going to be on you'll be seeing that again. Promote 5 Mile MITC, Plymouth and Haggerty corridors. We're doing that all the time. So that's just an ongoing issue. Update.
Are we going to use that $100,000 for that we got in a grant?
$100,000 went to the MITC Authority, and it's being used for public relations, the new website, promotional materials and things like that.
Oh, so this line item here is something this is just soft stuff that where we
Yeah.
would, okay, all right.
What we do all the time. It's just an
All right.
ongoing thing. Update zoning precinct planning, all their township maps. Jeremy's people are they need to do that because we're gonna have to update the planning map after this master plan effort is done. We may have to update the precinct maps. Jerry and I have noted that there's a couple streets that have disappeared off of the precinct map. We have to update the street map. We've had new subdivisions and other development put in that we need to include for things like trash pickup and things of that nature. And it hasn't been done in at least 4 years, probably longer. So we just need to do that. Next, to just assist in marketing longstanding vacant or unused properties, such as a steak and ale site. We can think of others. That is something that we do here every day. It would be great to have help like Gary Heitman, but I won't go there. But we always need to keep working with the business community and other allies to move those vacant and problem sites.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may please, 40 years ago, I rented from Norm Newman in Dearborn, my
Yeah.
first law office. He was the owner and is the owner of that property. And as you informed me, his daughters are now the owners of that property. We have a terrible eyesore at Ann Arbor Road and I-275, and Bennigan's is now available property also. I would love to see Gary Heitman, Laura Haw, and I have had an offer from the president of the Commercial Realtors Association of Michigan, Bill Milliken Jr., my contemporary, to go to lunch with the Newman daughters. And let's not discount the interpersonal abilities of people such as Laura Haw, Gary Heitman, and Bill Milliken Jr. to find out what the Newman daughters want in order to develop and to sell that property. I know the Newman family. I paid rent to Norm Newman 40 years ago.
Well, why do we need to pay a consultant to ask them that question? Why can't we just ask them ourselves?
Who, the Newman daughters?
Whoever he's talking about.
Yeah, it's
He was talking about Laura being a part of that. I don't think he was talking about the consultant doing that. Did you, John?
Yeah, he mentioned the consultant.
Oh,
but I did that somewhat to make a point, but
This
we
is
all
a
need
private business deal is what it is. And that commercial real estate brokers know how to do this. They do it all day long. And if there's a demand for that corner, they'll find it. It's just nobody's found it yet.
Like,
Let's
it's not
wrap
like,
up the
it's
need.
not like nobody, it's not like it's like painfully obvious to everyone that drives by there that there's vacant property available. I mean,
Well, get it done. Either you do it or you don't.
Well, the market is skewed right there right now for a variety of reasons, but government can help out with zoning. We can help out with traffic patterns, and we certainly want to get that developed. So, well, anyway, that's an ongoing thing that we do here all the time. Promote job training and placement with Plymouth Canton schools and Schoolcraft College. Again, pre-COVID, we were just lending our good name and support to these to some of the efforts that they were doing. It'd be great to restart that again. We were especially, again, I hate to mention Gary Heitman again, but when Gary would be out on his business calls and his outreach missions, we were, again, pre-COVID, we were just getting inundated with requests from businesses throughout the township who were desperately looking for people. The unemployment rate around here pre-COVID was probably 2% or virtually non-existent. So, if and when stuff like that gets revived, we'll certainly lend our good name and our support to those efforts. We're not going to spend any money on job training or job placement. I just want to make that clear.
My
Uh,
final one-line comment. Clear need for a grocery store on the east side of Plymouth Township. This is what I heard all the time when I went door to door, covering every precinct on the east side, east of Sheldon, as the only trustee living east of Sheldon. That's all I heard. And if you want to put a fresh time right next to LA Fitness, you will be the hero of the east side of Plymouth
Yeah,
Township.
and you know, John, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but when that property was available, the original vision for that location was to have much more than a lot of vacant space. And when that property was available, every grocery chain in this part of the country was approached, and we can't just mandate that somebody's going to move a grocery store in there. They all decline because grocery stores are zero-sum games, meaning that if a new grocery store opens on the east side of the township, it doesn't attract new customers from outside the immediate area. It has to take them from somewhere. So it has to take them from Kroger or Meijer or Bush's. People don't just eat more because there's a new grocery store, and that was the problem. All of the chains did market research, and they determined that there was not appropriate demand for a grocery store on the east side of the township. And I mean, that's just the way it is. We tried to make that space available for years to a grocery store, and none were interested.
You know, at one time in the Kmart property, there was a grocery store.
Yes.
It was called Chatham, I think.
Oh
Yeah,
my
wow.
gosh, that's a long
You're an
time.
old man, Chuck.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
Chatham. I remember Chatham. I remember Chatham.
Well,
Okay,
anyway, people worked, you're right, John, people worked really hard in Plymouth Township, and some political people did too, and they just could not. In fact, we wanted a grocery store there so bad that at least one township board member wanted to nix the deal for LA Fitness because they weren't going to get a grocery store. So we worked on that.
Well, thank you for the background, but that's all I heard.
okay. So we're off track though on this particular line item. So the next one I had was promote job training and placement for the previously incarcerated. These are people who are no longer serving a jail or prison term. They're out. They've paid their dues to society and they're looking for a job. And again, pre-COVID, we all know that there were many people in the business community who were so desperate for qualified, hardworking people who wanted to make a difference and who wanted to earn a decent living, that they were actively looking at folks who had recently left the prison system. I know that there were federal initiatives along these lines at the national level, and we were just starting to see some of that here at the state and local level. It'd be great if we can get that back again, assuming that we're in a long post-COVID world where we're back to better employment levels. That's just one of
something to add on that. The biggest barrier to hiring ex-convicts is HR departments and policies. So why don't we hire some of them? Because municipalities will almost never hire someone with a criminal record. Never.
And the state law has changed quite a bit just in the last couple of years to eliminate the previous incarceration or conviction or arrest records of individuals. We were as a state and as a country, we were making a lot of progress in that area. The business community was very supportive, and hopefully we'll get back to that at some point. But for now, it's just like the one above it. We just want to be a positive partner for other entities that are providing that kind of service. And whether that's the state, the county, or the court system, that's something that we certainly want to help out with to the extent that we can. Again, I don't want to spend any money on anything like this because I don't think that's the proper function of township government. But would
we hire someone? I would like to hire someone if they meet the qualifications.
Yeah, I mean, I would too, if they meet the qualifications. I think that there's opportunities out there in township government. I mean, right now, we're competing in a bizarre job market because of COVID, because we've got the federal government subsidizing people, because it seems like we're moving closer and closer to some kind of left-wing, living wage salary that everybody's going to get a $2,000 check every month, but hopefully.
I think the better question is that if somebody is previously incarcerated, does that become a disqualifying event in terms of being hired by government? I certainly don't think it should be preferential. But if all things are equal and a person is qualified, do we give them another chance with a criminal record? And that's what we have to decide.
Well,
Well,
currently
again,
they're blocked from being
What's that?
hired, no matter how qualified they are.
What'd you say, Chuck?
Currently, they're blocked from being hired, no matter how.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Do we want to unblock them and make those people eligible for hire when currently they're not?
a lot of that, though, is being governed now by state law. There's a lot of those restrictions have been mandated to be removed. So it's all part of the whole restorative justice effort that was going along very well there for a while. All right, I'm going to move on. Seek outside legal opinion on the use of surplus brownfield funds. We have our brownfield authority that I believe Mark is sitting on a surplus of like $1.8 million.
1.6, yeah.
1.6. We are using some of that money to pay our bills for the MITC project on the assumption that will be reimbursed by the state at some point. But I would like to do is explore an attorney, a law firm that would be very well versed in these issues, to give us a concrete legal opinion on what can and cannot be used with the brownfield funds. For example, could we use the way I understand Plymouth Township's brownfield authority is that it is not a site-specific brownfield authority. It is the entire township is considered the brownfield authority. I see Laura agreeing with me. So let's be creative. If I'm sitting on $1.6 million and our community continues to identify sidewalks and connectivity as a quality of life issue, can I use brownfield money to build sidewalks? Can I use brownfield money to build, not buildings, but to enhance connectivity, sidewalks, walkability throughout the community? Or do I have to limit it maybe to specific brownfield sites? I don't know the answer. I don't know if anything I'm suggesting is legal, but I'd like to just get these questions answered once and for all, because Mark and I struggle with this every year, and just seems like a shame that we can't use this money for something worthwhile.
A couple of rhetorical things is, first of all, where did the money come from? It came from some type of tax increment value increase. One thing you may want to consider, you may have to want to refund it to the people who paid it. Or something, if you want economic development, you want low taxes. So that one way of keeping taxes low is not to over recover, DDA money or brownfield or tax increment. So you got to think about that. Most of the brownfields, lock performance was probably the biggest one we ever had.
That's exactly where it came from, Chuck. Normally, and I'm certainly not an expert. Today, we only have one brownfield. That's the Victory Honda. And what happens is the owner of the property pays from their own pocket to clean up the property. And taxes are captured throughout the years to repay that. And the Victory Honda has been going on for years and years and years. And finally, the amount that has been captured from that property in taxes the final payment will be made for Victory Honda at the end of this year. So we'll be done with that one. What happened in the case of Victory, I went back and looked historically, what happened in the case of LOC, in the dark again, What happened in the case of LOC was that when the brownfield was established, they not only captured the taxes to pay for the rehabilitation of the property, but was embedded in the agreement that they would continue to capture taxes for an additional 5 years. And so that money that was captured after everything was repaid on LOC just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And now it's $1.6 million. And, you know, Kurt and I, and again, I'm not an expert in this, we're just sitting around going, what are we supposed to do with this money? What can we legally do with this money? That's what we're trying to figure out, because it's just been sitting in this pot for the last 15 years, just growing and growing.
Well, we're not the first ones that have had this problem. The first place to look is Michigan Townships Association and the Municipal League. Other people have had this situation. So that's the first place to look. And then I guess if I was Lock Performance, I'd want my money back. But anyway.
It's not, well, it's not their money, right? It's the money that Lock Performance paid their taxes. And that money, instead of going to us or the school district or the county, went into the brownfield. So when you're talking about repaying the money, it's money that was held back from the taxing authorities and given to the brownfield.
Usually the school district is carved out, isn't it?
The debt is.
They didn't, and the library is another one that used to be carved out. In other words, they didn't lose tax revenue. Is that still the case?
You can, no, it's not. Brownfields are not carved out from the library or from.
The DDAs are, for example, our district library had the right under state law to opt out. So
that's relatively new, yeah, but brownfield.
We don't capture the library's tax increment in the DDA.
Not anymore. No, we
And
did.
that just started like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was state law from 2018, I think.
Yeah. But anyway, it's an interesting question. What can you do with the money? And I think that's the point of Kurt's suggestion here is let's bring in some legal experts to tell us what we can do and what we can't do with that money.
Okay.
How much do we have? 1 point what?
It's $6 million.
And growing.
And growing.
Yes.
Accumulating.
Okay. So along those lines, this is another, again, probably controversial item. Should we consider disbanding our Downtown Development Authority? This was created in, I believe, the year 2000. Is this a time for us to say, mission accomplished? We've beautified the corridor. There's really not enough money around for us to do anything major or significant. The DDA is sitting on 1.3 million, 1.4.
Yep.
And it collects about $300,000 a year, of which half of that is money that we would have received.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, the DDA is getting $300,000 a year, and 120 of that is out of the pocket of Plymouth Township.
Right, general fund.
So if you change the DDA agreement somehow, the township would get an incremental $100,000 a year.
120,000.
120,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
This is what I mean. Money. I mean, this is going on everywhere in Michigan. There's money all over the place. We need to get the money where it needs to go. So,
Well,
which is in people's pockets, private people's pockets.
Okay. All right. Well, so what I'm just thinking of is if we were to disband the DDA, and there are other communities around Michigan that are doing that. Utica is a big one that just recently did that. A lot of communities are looking to doing this because these DDAs are sitting on surpluses, or they're pulling revenue away from the local unit of government. So in our case, my suggestion, and again, I would need experts to really sweat this out, but if we were to legally disband the DDA, take the surplus money that they have and spend that on connectivity, on sidewalks, on walkability, walkable community, all of those things that people say that they want, then that money be reprogrammed for something like that? Could that be done on our own? Could that be done through a contract between the DDA and the township? There's a lot of unanswered questions. And then we would also have to make a commitment to the DDA zone, the way it exists right now. We would have to make a commitment, I think, legally to that district that we would maintain the landscaping, the trees, the snow plowing, all of the other services that those businesses currently receive from the DDA. So again, we can't have this discussion tonight, but I just want to put this on your radar as a way for us to tap into a great deal of money that could be reprogrammed for things like sidewalks, connectivity, bike paths, a lot of the stuff that people really want.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. My rule is if it's necessary or not necessary, then we don't need to have it. And I think you just need to make the case and go onward and forward.
Okay.
Can't do that unless we vote on it.
Oh, I'm not doing it on my own.
Well, I'll be glad to vote for it if you make the case
Yeah.
and substantiate the need.
Right. So I'm putting that on there as something to think about. Item 6 is technology. Bob and Mark, you want to take the lead on this? You're our resident IT experts.
Bob, why don't you start? Looks like the first couple of years.
Okay. I think I put the third one in. So we need, we need some longer term technology planning. I think we kind of got caught unprepared. So we don't have the capability for people to work remote. I mean, we're finally just getting our first Zoom call. So I think around this is some technology planning, a long-term capital improvement plan. I also added an option to look at whether the township should be utilizing managed service providers to provide network operation services, as well as some of the help desk and some of the other IT services provided.
Okay. I thought you had put in the technology plan, Bob. I pulled that off from an old meeting where you had mentioned that.
I probably did at some point in the past. Yeah.
Develop information technology long-term capital improvement plan. That's something that we're doing that in other departments. And I know Mark and I have always given Bob Jenks a hard time with some of his purchases every year. So rather than have to negotiate and arm wrestle those things, it'd be great if we could know on a year-to-year basis what we really need to purchase and how we can plan things out, because so much of this stuff is time sensitive. A lot of this stuff has expiration dates, and we just want to be able to better coordinate that.
And yeah, so kind of to add to that, I mean, I know the hour is getting late and we can discuss this a later time, is that municipalities are becoming increasingly targeted for cyber attacks. I think in 2019, there were 194 municipalities that had cyber attacks. Several of them had ransomware attacks, and I don't know that we have really a robust technology plan and a robust strategy for protecting against ransomware and other cybersecurity attacks.
Okay. I'm on the final page now. I'm looking at design, implement automated meter reading system. I think we've had that discussion.
Yep, I talked about that one already.
Mhm.
Implement work from home networking capabilities. Obviously, we're in a different world now. And one thing I would sure like to see, I don't know if it's on here. Yeah, I did put it on. Remote use of BSNA software for key staff. I can't approve POs right now or APs remotely. Somebody has to be in this office. That's just crazy. I mean, we shouldn't have. I mean, BSNA is a nice system. We like it, but we've got to be able to work remotely with that.
Do we know? Tell me again, in the Reader's Digest, why we can't operate BSA remotely?
There is no technical reasons why we can't, Chuck. It's
Did
been
you
a
say there's
concern.
no technical reason?
There's no technical reason. Bob Jenks has concerns that when you open up our network outside of this building, you're increasing your odds of cybersecurity attacks or security breaches.
Yeah, but people do that all the time with VPNs, as long as you've got secure VPNs.
I get it. Yeah, we can solve this problem.
Install new town sound system in township boardroom. Jerry's working on that. I think we're getting some bids like next week or something.
Yeah, we have finally got some people to come in and review. But COVID kind of made people a lot very nervous about companies coming in and viewing our instrumentality here. And of course, the elections, kind of postponed us on stuff. And then a lot of the people who were looking at what we were trying to do were concerned about being able to fix this problem and for us to try to maintain some of the old equipment. And it just wasn't working out as we were doing more investigation. But we have them coming in this Friday, and the bids will be coming in at the end of the month.
And I think we appropriated what, 35 or 40?
Yeah, it's probably going to be more than that because we're going to have to change some of these components that are 15 years old in order for them to facilitate the new equipment and, of course, for warranty issue.
And Mark,
But again, that ought to be, that ought to be part of a long-term technology plan. We shouldn't suddenly 1 year say we've got a 15-year-old system and we've never planned, for migration and upgrade of that. It is an old system.
It is an old system.
And why haven't we been planning for the upgrade and replacement of that system over the past several years?
Well, that's part of my argument about having a proper building fund, because that should be part of your building stuff. So this is something that has been, we tried to make it work, what was already there, and it's just not working, as you know. And so now it's so old that you need to really have a greater upgrade.
and Bob,
Jerry, we've done, since we moved in the building, we've done at least one major upgrade, maybe two, and they both failed apparently. And we should have plenty of money. Let's use PEG funds from the cable system, plenty of money. But I think we need some acoustical engineering in there, because the biggest complaint I hear about our meetings is I can't hear you. It's echoing or it's whatever, but people are totally frustrated. And I think some of it is a people operational problem, and the other part is technology.
Yeah, the equipment is not working for what we're trying to do. So it's just got to be replaced, and a lot of the major components have to be replaced, and that's what they're coming in to look at on Friday to give us a full scope on what needs to happen, what can we save that really needs to be saved, and what really needs to be replaced for a long-term solution.
and Bob, just to answer, I want to follow up on some of your comments. This is not necessarily an IT issue. I think in the real world, in the private sector, this would be considered an IT issue. But this is also a separation of powers issue in local government, because traditionally it's the clerk, it's the responsibility of the clerk's office to manage the boardroom or the city council chamber. It's his or her domain, and it falls upon them to make those decisions on things like a sound system or a broadcasting system. It's not.
So it's Jerry's fault we're all screwed
No,
up.
it's not Jerry. I'm not blaming Jerry. I'm blaming other people. No, I'm not blaming Jerry. I just, it's got its foot in IT, but it also has its foot in.
I get it. It's just like any organization, Yeah, I get it.
But no, Jerry's been diligently working on this on top of, running the biggest election in the world last year. So I'm amazed that, we've made this much progress.
The sound is physics. This is acoustics. And why in the world we're not getting an engineer recommendation on acoustical tile in the ceiling of that room? I don't know. I don't know why. And I'm finding myself agreeing with Chuck Kermy more and more.
God, you're disturbed.
You can't beat logic, huh?
Very quick suggestion, Jerry. While these people are in looking at the boardroom, could you have them take a look at the multi-purpose room as well? And the reason I say that is because that camera that we don't use the multi-purpose room very often, I get it. But when we do use it and we're displaying, the PC onto a projector,
Yeah.
none of that equipment works anymore with today's technology. So you've got to find an adapter cable from 1982 in order to plug in your laptop, even project something on the front wall today.
I've had the same, yeah, I've experienced the same problem, and you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, so if they wouldn't mind looking at that and kind of just giving us a thought of what it might take to upgrade that as well.
Thank you for bringing it up, because that is a problem.
And because that room is really supposed to be our emergency management.
Right.
So in the case of 9/11 or a riot or a natural disaster, that's supposed to be our communications center, and I've never seen that TV thing operational ever. I was informed that the money for these sound improvements will come out of our PEG fees, which is the franchise fee that we get from Comcast and Wide Open West.
Correct.
Implementation, adoption of unified communications tools.
That's mine. Just
That's
in a
you?
nutshell, when we upgraded our phone system this year, we signed a license, and we pay a monthly fee to use this phone service. But that software agreement that we purchased has a lot of other tools bundled in with it that we're not using.
Okay.
And we should start to adopt those. They're productivity enhancing tools that everybody within the township would benefit from. I'm starting to use them. They're very cool, but we just have to roll those things out.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the names of these tools, and can we get some training for people so they get over the hump?
Yeah. The name of the name of the product is Unified Communications, and basically you can link your phone to your laptop, to your desktop, to your cell phone. So if somebody, I'll just give you an example. If somebody calls my desk phone and I'm on the golf course, my cell phone will ring. They'll think I'm in the office. I can answer a phone from my laptop. I can be like I'm right in the office, and they wouldn't know the difference.
So do you have to take any do you have to do any intervention to do that, or it automatically senses you're not in the office?
It's just you just set it up. You just set it up in a configuration tool. It's
Okay.
Even Jerry could do it.
So it's your phone.
Oh my God.
All
Find
right.
an on switch.
Okay. Website overhaul. I'd love to overhaul the website too, but we do have contract limitations. The website is integrated with our agreement with GFL, formerly Rizzo, and it was the website and we actually do have a township app. We don't advertise it at all, but it's really more for trash pickup purposes. But the app, the website, and our trash contract were all bundled together, and yeah, they were. And Bob Jenks and I are now arguing this, but I don't think that contract expires until next year. No, it was a contract that.
Wait a minute, for our website, it was a company in Troy that was not Rizzo.
Revised. No, I'm telling you, dude, it was we upgraded the website about 2 years ago, and we were very limited in what we could do because they were. I'm just telling you, these contracts were. I'm now arguing with the guy off camera. These contracts were bundled, and they all rolled out together at the same time. It was who behind this, and I'm not going there.
I wasn't aware that it was bundled, but
It's all good until it doesn't work.
Well, it works. It's just it needs to be a lot better and user friendly than it is. And we need to. I want to start all over again someday, but we have to make sure that we are within our contract limitations.
Okay,
Right.
with the website, one thing that I've put on the want list is a calendar by month that shows the 30 days of the month. In other words, kind of like an old manual calendar, but on the website, so people can see with a snapshot what's going on for that month.
Yeah, I think we have that. Maybe we can make that more
Make it-
prominent, but
yeah,
I'm
more
looking at Bob Jenks and he says we've got it. So I'm
Okay.
blaming.
We don't want to Where's Waldo then.
Oh dear, I don't want to go there. Okay. Develop 5G plan. This is yours, Chuck.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about 5G. And Laura, has anybody approached us about building a 5G network? Because allegedly it's poles 20 feet high, 250 feet apart in neighborhoods. You know, directionally, that's great for industrial parks, or office parks, but I don't know if neighborhoods, maybe they want it, but I don't want to be caught off guard by big tech telling us what to do and being flat-footed.
We haven't had any requests in the planning department for that. Jeremy, I don't know if you and Patrick have received any inquiries.
Is anything on the horizon in 5G that?
I mean, 5G is going in, there's 5G in, it's going in primarily in the cores of cities right now. So there's 5G in downtown Detroit.
Right.
One of the limitations is that, you know, your device has to be able to support it. So new devices that are coming out on the market are 5G capable. Do you have
5G.
one? So you must have got that probably within the last 6 to 12 months.
I got it as a Christmas present from my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah, so you gotta have to have the service, but I understand that a lot of where it's been being built out are the corridors along the freeways, because that's where they do the upgrades first.
Kevin, do they use will they be using like the Metro Acts to install these types of things?
I don't think that they will. The Metro Act applies to wired communications, not wireless communications.
So 5G just needs a lot. It needs a lot of density. It's low. It's a low powered signal, so it needs a lot of devices, or a lot of transmitters in a high density configuration. But it's going on. It's being installed largely along freeway corridors, primarily because one of the early applications will be once cars start talking to each other. That's just that's a lot of noise going back and forth, and that's where they're going to see the biggest penetration of it. So I attended a presentation on it about, I don't know, 9 months right before COVID. We had about, you know, day and a half meeting with AT&T, and I still have the materials if anyone's interested. But another thing we might want to add to this while I'm thinking of it is, I don't know if our first responders have investigated placing them on the FirstNet network, but we really ought to make sure that if we're not doing that, we're doing that for deliberate reasons. So FirstNet is a separate network that's only available to first responders.
They're like 800 megahertz or what?
No, it's a separate network that was built out by AT&T, and it's only available to like healthcare providers and first responders. So what happened at the out in DC last week was the commercial cell networks got jammed and people couldn't communicate, but those first responders that were on the FirstNet were able to continue to communicate. And we really ought to have that as a part of an overall, you know, a continuity and disaster recovery plan that we can talk about, you know, later, because we're over 3 hours now.
Okay, that's a good point.
So this 5G thing is premature then, is what you're saying. So we don't need to worry about it now.
I don't know, like the assets go on, the reason that they're building in cities is because the assets will go on buildings in cities. So basically, if you look at, you know, 4G and earlier on towers, the distance that those antennas would cover is a much greater distance. So 5G needs a lot more antennas in a smaller area. So they're concentrating them in cities because it's lower powered, higher volume transmissions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the thing I don't understand, and I think the ultimate question you're getting to, Chuck, is there anything that the township can do to prevent the implementation of 5G? I don't know. I've read articles. a lot of people are concerned about the health risks and safety of 5G. I don't know anything about it, but that's the ultimate question. Is there anything that the township can do to prevent the implementation of 5G technology?
Or do we want to? I mean, it's
Do
the
we want
same discussion around smart meters. You know, there's a contingent of people that are opposed to smart meters for the same reason.
It would be an interference with interstate commerce under the Constitution if we even tried to regulate it in any way, especially in light of the Metro Act and the legislative history behind that. So,
Yeah,
I mean, my thing is, I just don't want antennas or towers up and down Ann Arbor Road or North Territorial. You know, if we can make this thing as discreet as possible, that would be my interest. And I think that's the only interest that a local government might have is aesthetics, zoning, location, height requirements, things like that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side is economic development in the business areas. It may be highly desirable because you may have thousands of people in a square mile between Beck and Sheldon Road that might want that. So that's a different story than in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I would use Wabasto as a great example. It's my understanding that we've given them a provisional tower approval pending the introduction of 5G because they need it for virtually all of their manufacturing communication processes and robots and everything. I mean, it's ridiculous what 5G is. I mean, all of this electric vehicle stuff and self-driving cars and all the other cool things that we talk about, that this is all dependent on 5G is my understanding.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we just need to have this on the radar, and I'm not smart enough to know what to do.
All right. God, we're done.
We did it.
Hold on, I know. So Mark Clinton and I are going to go through this. If there's anything I'd like if we could remove some stuff, but I think what we need to do now is just prioritize these things. And Mark and I can come up with a grid and maybe go like 1 through 5, 1 being highest priority, 5 being, lowest. But I would just encourage you that when you do your rating system, let's just not make everything a 1 because we feel good about it. We need to look at it from a prioritization, what's urgent, what's not urgent, what's affordable, what's realistic, what's legal, what's doable within the next 12 months.
Yeah, I like that approach. I think it gives everybody a vote in terms of prioritizing these goals. And we can't do everything on this list, but I think this prioritization exercise will give us a good indication what we collectively as the board think are the most important priorities. They're the ones with the highest score that come out of the prioritization process.
Right, and what I like about it is we're not reacting. A lot of times situations are reactive. Here we're trying to be proactive and addressing the various issues. I mean, there are a lot of issues.
Yeah.
That you have.
No, Kurt, this was a good exercise, a great list of. I kind of went into this year thinking we don't have a lot to do, and I left this discussion going, "Wow, we got a lot of good things that we can still keep moving in the right direction here." So look forward to the prioritization process. Also, good discussion. I can see we have difference of opinion on some of these things, but I think we'll come up with the best list of things that we collectively agree on going forward.
Yep. I understand we do have a member of the public who wants to talk. Is it about the goals issue or is it something else? Let's find out. Bring him on. It is Dwayne Zantop. Is he on the phone or?
Oh, heaven.
He's muted.
Unmute, Dwayne.
Okay. Am I unmuted? Am I
Yep.
there?
I can hear you.
Okay. Jerry, don't let him pick on you about your age. My dad worked till he was 85. So, and as far as this escape device, we had them on our airplanes. It wouldn't work too well for me. It was a rope with knots. You throw it out the window and run down the rope. So I don't think I could fit out the window.
We'll just throw Jerry out the window.
So
Oh, poor
just
Jerry.
a couple other things. I'm with GFL. I know a lot of my neighbors are. And I'm also concerned about, I would like to see HVA stay with all this COVID that's going around. I appreciate everything our firemen do, but I think this gives them some extra protection. And we have 3 airports in the area here, 2 expressways, and I just don't, I really would hate to see them go away. I appreciate everything our firemen do. They took me to the hospital when they damn near died, and I really appreciate it. And never, you know, I'll be thankful for that forever. So let's see. I think that's all I got. It's been a long night, and I want to congratulate you all on getting elected. And
Thank you.
Okay, Dwayne. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else, Bob Jenks? Anybody else wish to comment just on the goals review discussion? Okay, all right. So we are now going into item H, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the anybody who wants to comment on anything else? This is the open public comment time. Mr. Jenks, is there anybody? Okay. John Stewart loves Plymouth Township. I see that. Okay, board comments. I just want to give a quick update on next week on our next agenda, our next meeting. Oh, it's getting late. Let's see. January 26th, we have a storm drain agreement with Jeremy. We are going to have a presentation by the chairwoman of the Environmental Leadership Commission. Possibly adoption of the 2021 goals, which we've gone over extensively tonight. The updated board procedures. I can put economic development consultant on there, and we can maybe delay it, but I think we should at least. What? Huh?
Let's wait. It's cramming too much in one meeting.
Oh, come on. We've done worse.
You guys get sleepy early.
Nah, we're fine. The emergency relief fund, and then we do have a closed session. I can't talk about it now, obviously, but we will let you know what that's about. It's not horrible, but it does require a meeting with Kevin Bennett and another consultant on the resolution of a litigation matter. So that's all I have, and I'm going to go around the horn based on my screen here. I'm going to go to Trustee Monahan. Audrey, anything?
No, thank you. Nice meeting.
Okay, Bob Dorshevitz. He's good. Mark Clinton.
I'm good.
Okay, Jerry Vorva.
Excellent.
Okay, John Stewart.
Thank you for all of your communication, your emails. Keep on keeping on.
All right, Chuck Kermy.
Census results. Do we have anything? And if so, let's put it on let's send it out or something.
No,
Laura, have you seen anything?
we don't have anything yet.
Have they given a date of when there's going to be some information, at least preliminary?
I would have to research that. I don't know. I know everything got delayed by COVID, so I don't know when we're going to get those numbers.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All set. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made by Trustee Stewart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Do we need to do a roll call on this, or all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.